Good evening, Milpitas. Welcome to tonight's special City Council meeting here on May the 10th, 2022. And tonight is a special night where we will approve the operating budget. Just really super excited and thankful for staff. All 323 pages of the proposed budget was scoured by the City Council, and we took the community's needs and feedback, and we're going to hear about them all tonight. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll go to our City Clerk, Wendy Wood, for the roll call.
Councilmember Chua?
Here.
Councilmember Dominguez? Here. Councilmember Fan?
Present.
Vice Mayor Montano?
Here.
Mayor Tran?
I am here. Thank you very much, Wendy. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And next is the public forum. We'll do 2 minutes tonight for public comments. The public forum, for those watching at home, perhaps for the first time, is an opportunity to speak your mind on any item not on tonight's agenda. Tonight, we have a simple agenda, one item. Anywho, I will look around the chamber here at City Hall on this fine late afternoon with perfect temperatures and a slight breeze outside. Seeing nobody in the chamber, we'll go to the Zoom. I want to welcome folks for joining us on the Zoom. It is a hybrid meeting, and I want to give a shout out to our city staff for posting the link to the Zoom earlier. I caught that on Facebook. I see no virtual raised hands on the Zoom at this moment, so we'll go ahead and move forward to the announcement of conflict of interest, and we'll go to our city attorney, Michael Mutalapassi.
Thank you. I asked the mayor and each of the council members whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda, or I guess the single item on tonight's agenda.
I hear no conflicts, but we can also go down the dais here. Councilmember Chua.
None.
Councilmember Dominguez.
None.
Hearing none. Councilmember Fan.
None.
Vice Mayor Montano.
None.
And myself is none.
Let the record reflect that no reported conflict.
Very well. Thank you very much. Our city attorney, Michael Mutalapassi. Moving on here to the approval of agenda. And we got a simple one tonight, folks. I'll go ahead and move to approve the agenda. Need a second. We got a second from Councilmember Chua. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. The motion is carried and the agenda is approved. And let's move forward here to the main event. Let's receive a presentation on the fiscal year 22-23 proposed City of Milpitas operating budget, and we'll provide feedback. We'll start off with our city manager, Steve McHarris.
Well, thank you and good evening, Mayor Tran and members of the City Council. As Mayor Tran introduced, tonight we will be studying the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget. As we kick off the study session, I want to first offer a few brief thoughts on this topic. Our budgeting proceeds with tempered optimism. We're moving forward with severe impacts caused by the pandemic to a recovery mode. We remain concerned about economic impacts related to Russia's war in Ukraine, rising interest rates, intensifying inflation, escalating fuel prices, and continued supply chain challenges. Nevertheless, we have balance with recovery in tax revenues, including Measure F and ARPA funding, combined with the council's leadership and support by our very talented workforce. Our presentation will touch on many of the city accomplishments this fiscal year, all of which should be celebrated. And what makes this part stand out is how well we performed coming out of a $30 million loss over the past 2 fiscal years and minimal service level reductions while maintaining fiscal stability. We also have some unfinished business with council referrals that staff will review for clarification and guidance. So before I turn it over to staff, I'd like to thank the entire executive leadership team and their staff, along with special thanks to the finance department for helping the city maneuver through this pandemic and bringing together all the various pieces of the budget. With the leadership and direction of Mayor Tran, Vice Mayor Montano, Council Members Span, Dominguez, and Chua, Milpitas is poised to recover well from the impacts of the pandemic. Thank you for your time tonight. And Assistant City Manager Ashwini Kantak will touch on some of our key accomplishments and work plan items, followed by Finance Director Lauren Lai, who will walk us through the proposed budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. And good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. Ashwini Kantak, Assistant City Manager, joined by Deputy City Manager Walter Rossman, Finance Director Lauren Lai, and of course, all the other department heads. If we could please have the slide deck up. So we're very excited to be here today to discuss the proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget. And also we'll be spending a few minutes just reflecting on the many great programs and services that were offered in this fiscal year 21-22. So I'll share some key accomplishments for this fiscal year as well as key work plan items. In the interest of time, obviously, we will just touch upon very few highlights, which are just a fraction of the overall department work plans. And I would like to take a moment to add on to Steve's acknowledgement, to acknowledge all of the department heads and their teams, Chris Diaz and his BBK team, as well as our new city attorney, Michael Mutalipasi, for continuing to do such a great job for the city and community. And then, of course, it's great leadership and guidance from the City Council on all of our programs and initiatives, input from our community, and excellent work by our staff, which is why we believe we've been able to provide the high quality services and programs to our residents and businesses in this fiscal year, despite all the challenges of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. And added to that, the uncertainty brought about by the war in Ukraine, high inflation, as well as supply chain challenges. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Next couple of slides, we'll just touch upon key accomplishments. So in this fiscal year as well, Council continued to lead and provide guidance on various COVID-related programs and policies, including EOC management. We had a mobile vaccination clinic program, which was very successful, a vaccine mandate for city employees, business assistance programs, rent relief, as well as various social services programs. As you know, Milpitas was among the first cities in the county to successfully implement a COVID-19 vaccine mandate. This was a lot of work, required negotiations with our labor groups, close coordination with the city attorney's team, as well as a lot of tracking and discussions with employees seeking exemptions. In August, Council approved the $16.7 million Milpitas American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA for short, investment plan, which includes 25 distinct programs. And these provide much needed assistance to businesses as well as our vulnerable community members. And the programs also invest in city infrastructure and services. And this is pretty unique compared to a lot of other cities that used ARPA to balance their budgets last year. And Council was very clear and also showed their leadership in using ARPA to help the community in need. Some of the key ARPA programs for economic vitality include the Small Business Assistance Grant Program, which has now dispersed 275 $5,000 grants to awardees, which total $1.375 million. We also had a hotels assistance program that has concluded after giving out 12 grants of $10,000 each and a 13th grant soon to be processed. We also have a workforce development program, which includes the Milpitas Youth Force, which will be launching shortly in June, and several programs under this initiative that are funded that are currently either enrolling or recruiting for those programs. And on a related workforce development topic, we also had a COVID-19 workforce recovery program that successfully graduated 25 Milpitas residents this year. In terms of other economic development programs, we completed phase 2 of a fiscal benefits of employment land study. And this is to really preserve and protect employment lands in the Innovation District, which is within the Milpitas Metro Specific Plan area. And council approved the staff recommendations with the associated action plan. This is really key to diversifying the city's future tax base and continuing to attract high quality jobs to Milpitas. We also implemented major components of the Smart City Infrastructure Project, and very pleased to be recently recognized as one of the top 50 smart cities in the world. Through this program, we have converted all our street and park lights to LEDs, which will save electricity as well as reduce maintenance costs. We've installed solar panels on some of the city facilities and are finalizing the automated water meter infrastructure program. We've also implemented council-approved water conservation measures and programs, including educational efforts, rebate programs, as well as enforcement. And residents can also report water waste through the My Milpitas app. And then, as council is aware, we've had a big push in terms of implementing a comprehensive accessory dwelling unit or ADU strategy, which is to incentivize ADUs and provide more affordable housing options while creating jobs in the city. And this strategy includes developing effective tools to plan ADUs, focus technical assistance and outreach, and also permit fee waivers. Next slide, please. In December of 2021, Council adopted the updated Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and this master plan was informed through both online and in-person community engagement spanning over 1 year. The plan outlines a long-term plan for the city's 37 parks for the next 20 years, and it also includes recommendations for short-term improvements over the next 5 years, for which Council actually allocated a significant amount of ARPA funding. In terms of our capital improvement program, we completed 4 CIP projects, including the Parks Master Plan and the forthcoming Trails Pedestrian and Bike Master Plan. We began construction of 4 projects, including McCandless Park, as well as the annual street resurfacing project. And we also began design of 9 projects, such as the design for the ARPA-funded short-term park improvements, and the annual street resurfacing, which includes Dempsey Road, which has been a priority for the council. We continue to leverage existing and new technology systems and improve city processes and systems. So we implemented an automated onboarding process to enable a smooth and more consistent experience for new employees. And then, as you are aware, we were one of the first cities in the region to initiate and continue through the pandemic since last year, hybrid council meetings. We've developed a streamlined ARPA web portal, and this allows us to manage applicants and also ensure transparency on all of our ARPA programs that was developed in-house. And we've implemented several measures to strengthen cybersecurity, which is, as you know, a high risk area and a high priority. So network threat detection, user training programs, and multi-factor user authentication. In terms of easing the planning process, we've launched tools to simplify the process, including a development review handbook and an accessory dwelling unit toolkit, both of which council has seen before. With the recent approval of the contract with VTA, staff is working with our partner RIDECO to begin implementation of the Milpitas On-Demand Shuttle. This is with the $1.2 million grant from Valley Transportation Authority, or VTA. This is a really exciting program, and it provides a much needed first last mile solution to our residents as well as our business community. On the housing front, we've continued a successful partnership with the county and nonprofits to deliver services to the unhoused. And then council also in this fiscal year approved amendments to the Affordable Housing Ordinance, which further strengthens the city's affordable housing policies. We've begun implementation of the council-approved community identification and branding strategy, and this includes wayfinding signs, city fleet, facilities, and it's also in conjunction with modernizing the city's domain names, website, and other outreach materials. And then next month, we will be bringing forward some pretty significant items, so key long-term planning documents, including 3 utility master plans, water, wastewater, and stormwater, as well as the updated climate action plan. Next slide, please. Next. And now I'll just cover a few of the key initiatives that the proposed budget envisions in terms of funding and resources. And again, these are only a small portion of each of the department and CSA work plans. So construction of Fire Station 2 is scheduled for completion in August of this year. And we're planning to begin operations from the new fire station in fall of 2022. So that's very exciting. With the additional staff proposed in this budget, we are planning to start 7 new CIP projects, including design of the softball fields at Cardoza Park, which has again been a high community and council priority, as well as the Fire Station 1 modular building. In late summer, we will be bringing forward the Milpitas Metro Plan for adoption, and soon thereafter, we'll be updating the infrastructure plan as well as the impact fees. And then, of course, we're continuing work on the Main Street Gateway specific plan, and we'll be pursuing grant opportunities to maximize funding for planning and placemaking efforts in both of these areas. With the adoption of the general plan and the specific plans underway, the city zoning ordinance does need a comprehensive update. So we will begin this process and we'll be phasing it so as to focus on the critical zoning changes in the near term and implement long-term infrastructure, zone in the near term, and then also additional updates in the next couple of years. With the adoption of the utility master plans, we will also begin long-term infrastructure and utility funding as well as CIP strategies. And then we have already initiated work on the city's 2023-2031 housing element. We will be bringing that forward for adoption in the next fiscal year. The council approved emergency management plan, and so we're continuing implementation of that, focusing on developing specific disaster response documents such as earthquake, flood, and wildfires. Again, will be a couple of big master plans, trail, bikeway, and pedestrian master plan will begin implementation, as well as the climate action plan. This is, of course, contingent on council approval and direction. That's coming up soon to you for consideration. And then with council direction in December to dispose the city-owned parcel 1 on South Main Street, we're currently working on the phase 2 environmental site assessment and look forward to continuing on the disposition of that parcel in the coming months. Next slide, please. So again, the ARPA investment plan is a big undertaking, and we will continue implementation of the various programs within the investment plan. A significant amount of work will also be required in terms of tracking and reporting to ensure full funding for the programs. We continue to seek opportunities, grant opportunities to fund city programs and infrastructure, and are actually bringing a grant consultant on board to help us maximize these opportunities. Our finance staff continues to work with all departments and our consultants to maximize FEMA reimbursements as well related to COVID-19 expenditures. Our public safety departments, police and fire, continue to host community engagement events as well as enhance social media presence, so such as Coffee with a Cop or Pause and Patrol programs, which have been very successful. And with the proposed addition in the budget of 1 position in the fire department also anticipates increasing their engagement events as well as establishing a stronger social media presence. The proposed budget also envisions enhancing landscape and parks maintenance services with the addition of staff. So with the proposed budget, 4 positions will be dedicated to the maintenance of 10 city maintained parks, and 2 positions will be deployed to address work requests that are submitted to Public Works to ensure completion of these requests within established timeframes. So hopefully a faster response to community requests. And then, as we all know, the city's website serves as a critical virtual gateway to all of our city's programs and services. Our website is outdated and we'll be initiating work to modernize this. We will also be implementing a Public Records Act request system to allow for more efficient coordination and tracking of the PRA requests that come in and help us ensure compliance with legal requirements. And then next fiscal year, we will be initiating a public art master plan and a historic resources master plan update. The public art master plan will establish the framework of public art within our city, including inventory of existing public art, placemaking, as well as use of public art funds. And then the historic resources master plan includes cataloging of historic resources, updating the city's landmark policy, which was a council referral for both public and private resources, establishing preservation efforts, identifying potential funding, as well as creating a program for historic resource markers. And in terms of initiatives in the workplace, this fiscal year, we have completed the diversity, equity, and inclusion training for council, staff, and commissioners, and will continue to support policies and programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. We're also updating our personnel rules and regulations, which is a very significant undertaking. We'll continue to update other policies or establish new policies as needed, and negotiating 2 MOUs with employee groups. So as you can see, this is again just a fraction of what's in everybody's work plans, and with kind of these highlights, I'm going to turn it over to Finance Director Lauren Lai to walk you through the proposed budget. Thank you.
Great job, Ashwini.
Next slide.
Thank you so much. So we're going to go through the agenda and then also point out the area we want to focus on tonight. It's going to be a high-level presentation focused on policy, really. Look at the calendar in terms of where we're at. Look at the community survey feedback, which we've seen in prior sessions, but just want to highlight a few major takeaways. The opening remarks by the city manager and assistant city manager about the economic outlook. Look at the citywide budget. Again, re-emphasize that we're presenting to council and the public a balanced budget. Look at our 10-year forecasts. Look at our positions, staffing level, and services in terms of the areas we're hoping to enhance. A big part of our city is also our utility funds. Talk about development impacts, our debt management, CalPERS, reserve policies, and importantly, where I put the yellow golden star, is seeking council's feedback regarding council referrals. Next slide, please. So we conducted the survey, as you may recall, 693 participants in multiple languages through the telephone and online through postcards and email invitations. Next slide. The feedback was favorable. As you could see there by the numbers, the respondents felt satisfied with the quality of life here in Milpitas, felt it is accepting, safe, celebrates culture, diversity, proud to live here, and importantly, trust the city in planning for its future. Next slide, please. As a part of the survey, we asked the participants how they would spend $100 in helping us simulate our budget and also prioritizing services. So the number one priority was public safety at $22.50, followed by neighborhood and housing, economic development, and an even spread in the other priority areas. So you'll see that prioritization echo when we look at the funding and service areas. Next slide. We are guided by what we call council priority areas. These are our services. These help us govern and also help us financially plan our community. So in alphabetical order: community wellness, economic development, environment, governance, neighborhood and housing, public safety, and transportation. Next slide. Here, just showing the community that the budget development is a very comprehensive process that involves about 6 months, and it gives a lot of opportunity for the community to be informed and engaged. And so where we are tonight is May 10th, where we're presenting the proposed budget and hoping to bring it back on June 7th for adoption. Next slide. As the city manager remarked, COVID definitely impacted our general fund, which is our major fund where a lot of our services are rendered. Want to just summarize how we responded in a super comprehensive manner. So it included Measure F, defunding CIP projects, using reserves during the pandemic when it was most suitable, looking at interfund transfers from other funds, deferring maintenance, defunding positions, looking and accepting employee concessions, and also one-time revenues, especially in the area of property tax and a couple of other line items as well. Next slide, please. We'll go over this in detail because both assistant city manager and city manager remarked, but importantly, as we develop the budget, we always have to keep an eye on the large big picture and the economic lens of what's happening. So COVID, GDP, CIP, inflation, and the war in Europe. So we continue to monitor that as we did in January. And importantly, where we are today is much more precautious than where we were on our discussion with council on January 25th. Next slide, please. So when we look at developing the budget, our primary objective is fiscal sustainability. And how do we achieve that? We achieve that in looking at the economic outlook. While the budget is a 12-month operating cycle, we have to look at it in terms of a long horizon. We submit to you a balanced budget. We adhere to strong policies and retain strong reserves. And importantly, we actively plan long-term, which we'll demonstrate later this afternoon, and also as summarized in the initiative and work plans earlier by the assistant city manager. Next slide, please. So citywide, our funds total $207.7 million. This includes the general fund, our utility funds, a lot of special revenue funds, as you could see there. Charges for service, property tax, and sales tax are the primary income generator. Next slide. When we look at the expenditure, which is what I qualify as our service areas, over $207.7 million, similar to the $100 budget exercise in the survey, you'll see there police, fire, public works, capital improvements really are the big slices of this pie. Next slide, please. This is the 10-year forecast of the general fund. Looks familiar because we showed this back in January. The January forecast did not include what we know today, and also did not include proposals, which are service enhancement. Importantly, when we look at this slide, what is it telling us? It's telling us that based on what we know, the annual forecast for the next 10 years is that we'll have an annual surplus. The numbers there stay in the black. With the exception of Measure F expiring in 8 years, we are trending very well. The expiration of Measure F reminds us that we have to continue to manage our costs, look at economic development, and stay innovative in the way we render our services to the public. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows us year-over-year change in the general fund. The general fund is our primary fund where most of our services come from. Top level takeaways for you is that our general fund revenue is anticipated to increase 6% or about $7 million. Where is that mostly trending from? Property tax. This information is guided by the county. Again, we met with them on Friday, and they said that we should still be cautious about our ERAF, which is the excess property tax allocated to us once school property tax allocations are satisfied. That is still under litigation. So this budget reflects that caution and does have a contingency for that revenue source. Sales tax is also trending well because of just personal consumption, and that is guided by HDL, who are sales tax expert. TOT is recovering there with 8%, a little slower than we'd like, but it is still trending positively. We're continuing to monitor that. Charges for services are improving, especially in the area of recreation, as we reopen and provide more services and are able to charge for those services as well with the reopening of those programs. Licenses permits, as you could see there, we're anticipating higher revenues, especially in the area of building permits. We've been diligently working to submit COVID city expenses to FEMA. We have in this proposed budget $340,000 of anticipated reimbursements. We have about $1.2 million in the pipeline for them to consider and approve. Importantly to note there, on an important note, is that our financial reserves are preserved and not used in what we're presenting here tonight. Next slide, please. This summarizes the expenditure for the general fund by expense categories, specifically salaries or staffing, services, debt service, capital outlay, and operating transfers. Consistent with the revenue, it's 6% increase because we want to present to you a balanced budget. Importantly is that we've been able to leverage ARPA to stand up services sooner than we probably would have. Importantly also is that we have a very diverse portfolio of strategies, which includes contract services, limited term staffing, and systems for operational efficiency. As highlighted in the prior budget deliberation and at mid-year, risk management and our insurance costs continue to increase. Our planned JPA premiums will increase next year in the tune of about $650,000. That has a lot to do with the higher insurance costs being carried by the pool as a whole, and that is being pushed onto member agencies. Again, it has to do with insurance costs when we purchase those as a pool. Those are just rising, and member costs are increasing. We are in this budget also contemplating to propose replacing 11 vehicles, and importantly is in the storm water fund, we're deferring the $500,000 transfer till 2024. Next slide, please. This is the general fund revenue by major revenue categories in a bar chart, basically illustrating the top 3 to 5 revenues being property tax, sales tax, license permits, fines, and TOT. Next slide. Likewise, on the expenditure or service side there, the bar chart shows police, fire, public works are the major service areas, and accordingly, the funding service areas. Next slide, please. Similarly represented, but as a percentage, you'll see there police, fire, and public works represents 2/3 of the funding, very consistent with the desire and feedback from the public engagement surveys. Next slide. Super. Let's take a moment to talk about Measure F. Measure F is the quarter cents sales tax. It's technically a transaction and use tax, but commonly known as a sales tax. 8 years, which means it automatically expires and sunsets in April 1 of 2029. Estimated revenue is $6.4 million. And in the establishment of this tax, we also established an oversight committee. That oversight committee met on March 17th, wherein the committee reviewed and confirmed that the services recommended to be maintained with Measure F are allowable expenditures consistent with Measure F. Importantly, I also want to convey to you that while the committee is advisory in nature, the committee wishes for the council to consider the following: Milpitas Fire Department to cease funding and operations of a dedicated EMS vehicle, doubling the square footage for community gardens, the city to work with school districts to enable community use of the tennis courts. Last but not least, the community to fund $2,000 towards the high school garden club for fruit orchard within their compounds. Next slide, please. So now let's talk a bit about service levels and positions. We're going to present this in 3 different ways. Here, we're going to chronicle it by, I think, service levels and areas. Importantly is the service area enhancements and those being restored are focused in the area of public safety, public works, infrastructure, and risk management. Also, we want to highlight that in public works, we're adding 7 positions, namely 4 positions in the limited term maintenance assistants, 2 maintenance worker 1, 2, and those are for parks and streetscape, and 1 maintenance worker for stormwater. In the area of public safety services, we're proposing 2 positions, the analyst 2 in fire, the evidence technician and police. In infrastructure, we have 2 to support the engineering and CIP. And in other areas, we have risk analyst, the recreation community engagement assistant, and also bringing in-house the city attorney department, which comprise of 3 proposed positions, the city attorney, assistant city attorney, and legal secretary. The organization is preliminary and the positions are also preliminary, subject to the city attorney's evaluation of it in due time. The fiscal 22 restored positions is 9. We continue to carry 9.75 defunded position, primarily because of our current financial position. Next slide, please. Shown slightly differently in case people process this differently, we show the change in staffing in 3 different categorization. We have 3 that were restored, meaning that they were defunded due to the $30 million of pandemic budget impact. We have 7 positions that were added that enhances service levels for sure. And we have 7 positions that were swapped from contract services, namely the parks and also city attorney. Next slide, please. Citywide, in the adopted 21-22 budget, we had 415.5 funded positions. What this table illustrates is where we are in this proposed budget, which is 440.5 positions. How do we get there? In the current fiscal year, council had contemplated a 6-month or 1 year suspending some of these positions. So we went from 415, we added 9 because of the current budget, which brought us to 424 positions. In this proposed budget, we're adding 16, which gets us to the 440.5, as illustrated and summarized in the prior 2 slides. This is shown by city service areas: public safety, community development, community services, and sustainable infrastructure, and leadership and strategic support. Next slide, please. So now let's talk about the proposals, which are specific service areas. We have 4 city service areas: community development, leadership, and strategic support, public safety, community services, and sustainable infrastructure. And the next 4 slides will summarize briefly the proposals and what they represent. A lot more detail is published in the 300-page proposed budget document. Next slide, please. So let's starting out with public safety. In the area of public safety, we have some staffing proposals, specifically administrative support for fire, which will support all units or divisions within the fire department. That's an admin analyst position. In the police department, in the police evidence unit, we're proposing to add an evidence technician to support the increase in evidence and also the importance of maintaining the integrity and retention of evidence under our responsibility. Fleet, we are looking to replace 2 command vehicles. These vehicles are over 20 years old in the fire department. In the police department, we are looking to upgrade and replace obsolete tasers. We're asking for 1 life pack, which is a resuscitation appliance or equipment that will go on the ambulance unit of the fire department. Terra Operations Modular Enhancement relates to the fire department, the ability to have an incident command management system for the fire department is very important. Last but not least is the police wellness program of $30,000. Next slide. Community Development CSA in this area, we're looking to increase staffing on a limited term for housing administration. This role will support the ARPA program, the rent and mortgage relief, and also other affordable programs under Housing Authority and CDBG. The professional services enhancement here in building safety, we have quite a few vacancies in staffing. This is proposed as net zero, which means that if we continue to have this level of vacancy, we will then contract or use professional services to ensure that our residents and commercial applicants at the building safety counter continue to provide, get, and receive timely service. Again, net zero, because we would be using vacancy savings. Here we're looking at number 3, the Special Projects Associates. It's a limited term position, a senior planner position, focus on the zoning ordinance. This is basically to implement the general plan update that was adopted by council. The zoning ordinance is how we implement it, so we'll need a specialist to help us carry through that long-term plan for the council in this community. Part-time staffing for the planning. This is to help with the level of service in hybrid and also in person, $72,000 there. Property asset management services. This is a one-time ask. What we're going to do is take this money to enable us to better summarize and manage our real estate properties, so we're in a better position to utilize, negotiate, and long-term plan our real estate assets that the city owns. Accessibility training has to do with ADA training for our city building safety housing. This is funded specifically through a special revenue, that's $20,000. And Granica's annual subscription is software for short-term rental, which is a very important area of our governance. Next slide, please. Community services and sustainable infrastructure, that's mostly public works, recreation, engineering. So let's go through that. As you may recall, during the CIP discussion, we said we needed staffing to move the projects along. So this proposal includes 2 engineering positions as shown there. Parks and landscape, let's unpack this a little bit. In this proposed budget, we are proposing to add 3 limited term maintenance assistants for parks. This is basically taking the contract services from Brightview in-house for 10 parks and 1 skate park. We have ongoing funding for this. The job classification is a maintenance assistant. These 3 individuals will be overseen and supervised by a maintenance 3. In the area of landscape, streetscape, I always think of that as median improvement, that we are contemplating and proposing 2 maintenance worker, 2 new maintenance workers, so that will be definitely service enhancements there, and 1 maintenance assistance to render those services. Stormwater facility, we're proposing to add an equipment maintenance position, a maintenance worker position. We have 3 pump stations. Is really important infrastructure. We need to add this position to ensure that there is some redundancy should there be a need to really step up and repair and deal with emergency response around our stormwater facility. Utility maintenance fleet, basically this is a truck. Now let's unpack this next item, Organic Waste Diversion Program, SB 1383, and Solid Waste Contract Administration. Our solid waste program, we are required to implement SB 1383, and then also move us towards being more financially sustainable in our solid waste program. That's $400,000 of new revenue, and in later slides, I'll speak to that a little more. As you may recall, the city is a member of litigation related to the San Jose Santa Clara Regional Treatment Plant for wastewater. This proposed budget includes our $1 million contribution towards such litigation costs. The litigation will be taken, I believe it's scheduled for January. So we're hoping to see how this develop and hopefully favorable for us. SCADA, exciting energy project for public works and multiple facilities here for the city. It requires technology for us to manage and monitor that. That's what this represents, is the SCADA contract services. Recreation, community services organizational study. In prior years, we've conducted organizational studies in concert with our fees to ensure that not only for operational efficiency, but also the nexus and the correlation to our fees for the purpose of our master fee planning. Community engagement staffing, this is for recreation as we look at opening more facilities, enhancing some of our cultural service programs. This is an assistant 3 position, restoring a position that was previously defunded. Last but not least, we're having challenges in retention of some of our part-time staff in the recreation department with the rise of minimum wage and the impact on some of these longstanding part-time employees. We're asking $27,000 to be able to retain quality employees, especially given current labor market challenges. Next slide. Leadership and strategic support CSA proposals includes a risk analyst position. While we have been processing claims, we really want to shift towards a risk management program, look at implementing important aspects of our injury and wellness plan, and also get a better proactive understanding of what we can do with Plan JPA. So this is the analyst position. Again, this was previously defunded position because of the COVID pandemic. Part-time staff enhancement in the city manager, and also to assist the city clerk, and also to assist the city council relative to priorities and projects. As you may recall, during the pandemic, we reduced an administrative position, and we're finding that we need part-time assistance to continue to provide excellent customer service. Reclassification of the information technology manager is consistent with other organizations within the department. This will create a deputy IT director, second in command. One manager will be reclassified. Labor negotiation survey, we will be undergoing multiple labor negotiations in this fiscal year. This appropriates about $35,000 for any necessary surveys or studies. Police department is asking for enhanced cellular service. That's important in order for us to be able to effectively operate the police department, especially in today's modern technology era. $37,000 ask there. The PRA, Public Records Act, we currently do that very manually. The ask here is to purchase software that will enable us to process it with workflow and digitize the request and make it much more efficient to respond to public records requests from the public. Last but not least, we use Office 365 extensively. What we're proposing is some enhancements to even incorporate more technology innovation in the way we do work to provide services to the city. Next slide, please. All right, shifting gears over to ARPA, not to go into it, we have $16.7 million in 5 great investment areas, over 27 tremendous programs. We have a whole section dedicated to it in the budget book. So please take a look. Super proud of what our council and this community has done relative to our plan for the ARPA investments back to homes and businesses here in our community. Next slide, please. So now let's take a dive into our utility funds. Super important because sometimes we just focus on the general fund, but the utility funds are important because one, there are substantial budget numbers in there. Planning for the reserves and long-term planning is really important. So I'll quickly unpack these for us. We'll start with the water utility fund. The budget is $34 million. The reserve is $68.3 million, as you could see there in those major long-term line items. Importantly here is that we'll be bringing to council long-term plan documents called the master plan and the financial plan that'll study our infrastructure needs, similar to the way we studied the metro specific plan last month. And then from that, look at the financial needs around that infrastructure plan. Importantly is to preview that rate increases will be needed for future years, which will be dependent upon these discussions that we'll have with the council and the public. And as we've previewed before, we'll continue to monitor wholesale rates as they're rising. And we are a consumer and a distributor of water to our public. Next slide, please. Now let's dive into wastewater utility. The budget there is about $24 million. We have about $57 million of reserved as summarized there. Again, we'll be bringing forward some master plans and financial plans. Rate increases may be likely in future years based on the master plan and the utility plan. And as mentioned previously, we'll continue to monitor what's happening with the regional treatment plant facility costs, and importantly, the litigation that's forthcoming in January. Next slide, please. Stormwater, I want to spend a little time on this because stormwater is a very important infrastructure. However, we don't have sufficient funding. We have a modest amount from development fees, and you'll see there that the balance of it is funded by the general fund. We need to get this in a more financially sustainable manner. Our proposal at some point is to convert it into a utility enterprise. We will be bringing forward also the master planning and the financial planning for the stormwater as well. But in this proposed budget, we do propose adding a stormwater maintenance 3 position to support this important infrastructure. Next slide, please. Solid waste, last utility I'm going to talk about. Solid waste, we have about $600,000. $200,000 comes from AB 939, and $400,000 is a proposed new admin fee. We will be levying this admin fee onto MSI, our hauler, who will then in turn provide a 2% rate increase. That equates to about 87 cents per month or $10.50 annually to a typical residential household. Why are we doing this? It's because we have several reasons. One, we need to implement AB 1383, which is the organic waste program, state mandate. Importantly also is that this is phase 1 of addressing the financial structure deficit in this program. So we want to get solid waste fund into a financially sustainable long-term footing. Next slide, please. Great. Just want to give you confidence and reassurance that the debt management, which is listed before you, fiscal 22-23, principal and interest of $3.7 million is incorporated in the proposed budget. Next slide, please. Developer impact fee. As you may recall, we looked at and council received the draft metro specific plan. This is a really important policy document, but also importantly, in this discussion for budgeting purposes, it will give us an opportunity to analyze and update the impact fees to ensure that all of these projects will be able to fund infrastructure and services in the long term. Likewise, with the Gateway Main Street plan that we'll be bringing forward, this will guide our mixed use, how we have our entertainment, retail, civic, all that in a very important corridor of our city. This will also provide us an opportunity to establish new impact fees, again, with the view that we want to be financially sustainable and have funding sources to ensure a high quality of life and infrastructure that can be repaired and improved over time. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about CalPERS liability. Top line, the reserve is $37.7 million. In recent surveys of all Santa Clara cities, the city ranks top, number 3. We have multiple plans. The reason why I talk about multiple plans is that the different tiers of plans means that we have reduced benefits, which translates to reduced employer costs. During fiscal year 21, we also implemented a best practice, which is establishing a Section 115 trust. This enables us to improve investments and better manage our long-term pension costs. So kudos to us, that was really excellent. That was about $34 million that was invested in this irrevocable trust. Also, as a best practice, we conduct an independent actuarial study of our city pension obligation and talk with them at length about our fiscal strategies. I also want to confirm with you that the budget and the forecast includes the pension costs that we are informed of as of now. And also importantly is that this proposed budget does not propose to use the Section 115 pension trust, nor does it propose to use any of the pension balance on the balance sheet. And now that is a slight departure from what we suggested on January 25th. But again, our economic situation, we've become much more precautious, and we feel that this is a much more appropriate proposal given where we are today in our budget development and what we know in terms of the economic outlook. Again, the pension in the trust and on the balance sheet, those reserves are reserved and maintained. Next slide, please.
If I
So
may,
now-
if I may, thank you for so much. Due to the nature of tonight's item, can I ask a question here? I usually reserve my questions toward the end, but I want to kind of ask it now since if we go back to the page, please. I really appreciate it, Director Lai.
Sure.
I just kind of want to focus on this slide for a bit. I am not opposed to the Section 115. I just want to take a moment to kind of have a little bit of an exploratory discussion point here for our community and for the council. Just looking at our pardon me, just looking at our sort of financials and our accounting, a resident can see a line item for our CalPERS fund, and it can go from over 30-something million dollars to a smaller amount. And I just want to assure residents that we're sort of shifting, which is not a common word in finance management, but we're sort of shifting over $30 million into the Section 115. I just want to touch on the sort of financial risk that it may hold. I know our overall investment portfolio of $333 million is, I think, down $9 million. If I read that, or is it up $9 million? But I don't want to stray too far from the 115, the Section 115. Can you maybe elaborate somewhat for our community and our council about the Section 115?
Absolutely. So we had about $34 million on the balance sheet. And with it being on the balance sheet the way it was, we are very restricted in our ability to invest it. Putting it into a Section 115 irrevocable trust creates some flexibility around our investment policy. With that, I want to give the public confidence that we studied the policy, we brought the policy forward to council, and it is still a moderately conservative policy. Namely, our goal is to achieve 3 to 6% increase over a 5 to 10 year horizon with a mix of 50% debt and 50% equity. So I don't want council or the public to feel that this is very willy-nilly or high risk investment policy. This creates more flexibility, but we are still very tempered and guarded. That policy was presented to council. It's also within the proposed budget document. We meet every quarter with the investment advisor, the city manager's office, and myself to review the performance and the governance of those funds.
I appreciate it. I think this is like the last budget I'm going to approve as mayor. And there's a significant shift in the financial management for our CalPERS fund. And so I just want to take a moment to put attention to it, as this is a document and a budget that we will be accountable for. I just want to, if you can, at the next, I think June 7th, bring back the section 115 sort of performance. I'd just like to request more information, but you've provided a lot of information too. I don't want to not state that we have been meeting in the city council chamber and also one-on-ones to obtain information about this. So I do want to say that there's a lot of work's been put into it, and that's why I'm not opposed to it. I just want to do due diligence so that as we go from being ranked in the top 3 amongst Santa Clara cities for this type of fund to, I don't think so much being ranked for this type of fund. I just want to spend a little bit more time on it, and we can do it any day of the week as well per our schedule availability. So
Happy to do it.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's go to Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. That was a good suggestion, actually, Mayor, to see the performance of the new structure, the way we move our reserve to Section 115 pension trust. And I also, on the other hand, I do want to commend the CMOs and also Lauren for not, because I remember in January, there was a proposal to use the reserve of 2.7, I think, if I remember correctly, 900,000 for 3 years. And now you're saying we don't need to do that because of the condition of economic current condition. And I applaud the team for doing that. I would rather at this time see that those reserve 2.7 million back to reserve. Oh, we didn't touch it. So thank you so much for doing that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. Any further requests? I'll follow up. Please carry on, Lauren, and thank you for listening.
Super. So I'll keep it brief, just about 7 slides, mostly on the council referral. And this is kind of where we also want to get some council feedback. So our reserve policy here, we're keeping our reserves high and consistent with policy. You've seen this document before. It's a 4-year trend of our audited financial statement footnote of our general fund, $85 million, which includes the $33.9 million in the trust, the unassigned portion as shown below in the contingency reserve, budget stabilization reserve as well. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the policy and the guidelines. We're not proposing to use the reserve PERS, obviously, but also, as you may recall, we have a $1.45 million future year deficit reserve that's also retained in this proposed budget. What have we proposed to change in the policy? Nothing regarding contingency and budget stabilization, but in the pension stabilization, we want to check in with the actuary act every year as we contribute more to it. And then if there is surplus, we'd like there to be a focus on infrastructure, storm system, and technology, as you could see there in the waterfall. The budget guideline is a matter of housekeeping. We're incorporating the authority city council provided to the city manager as it relates only to ARPA. Next slide, please. Now let's dive into the council referrals. We have about 3 slides here. This is where we're seeking feedback to see if you wish for us to amend the proposed budget as presented tonight. We have it broken out in several categories. 1, no general fund is needed. Great. So the first item, homeless task force. Council gave us direction on this, didn't make it into the publication. So we have $130,000 that we'll be modifying from the Housing Authority Fund to do a feasibility study of the tiny homes village. We'll go ahead and act on that since council gave us clear direction. The following items, we need council clarification and confirmation, specifically whether or not to move forward with the senior center mural, which is $20,000 from the public art fund. The next four items are from the general fund. We have an estimate of about $200,000 of costs. These are one-time items. 3-day roller skate summer event is about $100,000. The Ferris Wheel for 4th of July is about $55,000. The solar panels at City Hall facility is a $25,000 for the financial feasibility analysis, and also to do a design study on the address that's on the City Hall facade is $20,000. So that would require $200,000 of general fund resources. Next slide. Funding where we cannot determine the cost at this time. Ballot measures, whether or not council wants to move forward with one or more ballot measures, such costs could be taken out of the budget appropriation under the unanticipated expenditure line item. The childcare initial assessment will be handled by staffing, so no funding requests at this time. Third-party food delivery fee cap. This will require additional legal analysis and we'll provide more information subsequent to that review. Last but not least is the lease or the city's desire to lease 230 North Main Street. We've reached out several times to the owner. Thus far, there's not been an engagement or an interest or a response. We will continue to do so should council direct us to. Next slide, please. We need clarification and confirmation on the murals at the VTA pillars at Great Mall and Caltrain's pillars at Main Street. Here's kind of how we break it down. One site equates to $100,000, thereby proposing to suspend 2 years of the annual mural program. Or two sites would cost about $200,000 and suspending 4 years of the annual mural program. The homeless encampment response team, we're hoping to confirm tonight that funding the contract with Santa Clara County Heat suffices the council's goal at this point to conduct outreach for the unhoused and helping them with referrals to countywide networks of services. Great news. Subsequent to the publication of this proposed budget, we have freed up $245,000 of one-time general fund resources. And I say one time because Santa Clara County Library District voted on May 4th to define the city's financial contribution for library at $54,000. So we had a budget estimate of about $300,000, which was what we were anticipating consistent with prior years. So that frees up $240,000 of one-time resource that council may choose to direct towards the list above or otherwise. Next slide, please. That concludes the presentation. We hope collectively it reflects the information we've gathered, council priorities, and the transitional state of the city's finances. Again, we are tempered and cautious, but hope, and importantly, is to present to you a balanced strategic approach. Many thanks goes to everybody. I appreciate presenting this, but it's a compilation of a lot of hard work by a lot of talented people. So with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your time and everyone else's.
Thank you very much, Director Lauren Lai from the Department of Finance here at the City of Milpitas. To our community members and Milpitians all across the land of cornfields, I hope you enjoyed the proposed budget as much as I did. This is really a step in the process, and as shown on the PowerPoint presentation, June the 7th will be when this City Council approves the tremendous work done by all of our employees and city staff. I just want to first give kudos and really express that I'm here to provide positive feedback. I want to just kind of touch on a couple areas. I think for the one area is the code enforcement officer and the senior code enforcement officers. I'm encouraged by the changes that are being made in that organizational structure. Who should I go to here? Well, let's go to our Director of Building Safety and Housing, Director Goey. I like to interact with people, so I appreciate this very much. And I may ask questions just for the benefit of the public as well. Hey, how you doing, Director Goey? How are you? Yeah, we want to make sure you get some screen time here for your contributions to this proposed budget. Now, there's the code enforcement officer, which is one FTE, full-time employee. And then there's a senior code enforcement officer. There's 2 FTEs. I noticed there was a sort of a shift, or one of the positions was moved around. If you're understanding what I'm saying, perhaps you can share kind of why it went from code to senior, pardon me, from regular or just code enforcement officer to senior code enforcement officer.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. So actually, when I arrived to the city in 2018, that structure was already 2 senior code enforcement officers and 1 code enforcement officer. So we have not proposed a shift, in the last several years. So what we have done is proceeded to fill the position finally, because one of the position, the staff member was on long-term leave, and we were just able to start that recruitment the later part of last year, and we were able to bring on board a new staff member just this March.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you. I want to move to my next topic here is if I can go to the Director of Public Works, Tony Enda. Great, great. Love seeing folks here tonight. A very special meeting, no pun intended. But yeah, I'm encouraged with Public Works. It looks like we're adding a total of 7 FTEs in your department. Our city council, along with our city manager, not too long ago, I think last fall, really began to have a public conversation about the need for more street maintenance, trees and landscape maintenance, and also I see there's utility maintenance. So part of that discussion, I think, was adding maybe 4 or 5 positions. But here tonight, we're looking to add 3 street maintenance, 4 FTEs for street maintenance, 3 FTEs for trees and landscape. And so that's super encouraging, considering the challenges our city faced throughout the pandemic, recession, freezing positions, being able to fund new positions, or just having the revenue to fund new positions, such as our hotel taxes that were lost. Still not good. I think we're checking in at under $9 million in hotel taxes. That's less than when I started here during my first budget in 2017. So that's just a really bad sign. But I'm really encouraged to see the revenues come back somewhat, and we're adding all these positions. And I know that this is going to make a huge difference in our community in terms of its appearance. We know this is important to our residents' quality of life, as well as to our city council. I think we all beautified Milpitas in every way we can, and we went out there and we let the community know that we're doing all we can to clean up some of the blight. And so I think this sends a very clear message to our residents. Tony, perhaps you can share with our community what the 3 street maintenance positions will really mean, and also share what the 3 trees and landscape positions will really mean, as well as the 1 utility maintenance position. Perhaps you can share this discussion with our community right now who are watching.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mayor. We're super excited about the potential additions to the team and the level of service that can be raised by doing that. So like Assistant City Manager already mentioned, and then the Director of Finance already mentioned as well, we have a total of 4 maintenance assistants limited term that we're bringing on. With that, we plan on spreading the team out accordingly. We've got a maintenance worker 3 that's already on board, which will oversee 3 of those maintenance assistants in managing our parks. That's going to bring a lot of increased service level to the 10 parks and the skate park that staff are currently having to split time between maintenance in parks and maintenance in the street work. So that's going to be a great addition there. The other great addition that we're having is the 2 maintenance workers that are being added to the trees and landscape division. They're going to be mainly focused on doing work in our street landscaping medians. Really what we're trying to do here with this group is really develop a strike team. So as requests come in through our My Milpitas app, which we all love, we're going to be going ahead and use that team to go ahead and respond more quickly to the requests that come into the system. So what we expect to really get from here is it's twofold. One is increased service levels in our parks. So our parks are going to look beautiful as all ever. And then we'll also be able to react a lot faster to requests that come in into the city, whether it's coming in through the My Milpitas app or folks want to make a phone call or send us an email as well.
Thank you. And so I think I just want to, this is just a positive, notable part of the proposed budget here that I want to share with our organization, our community. It's really one type of resolution to the issues we're facing with illegal dumping and perhaps waste bins at the park, perhaps things like that are frequent. There's been a lot of talk amongst our longtime residents who want to see a Milpitas of the wonder years decades ago, and I think it's possible. I think it really is. We should continue to do the Beautify Milpitas. Thank you, city staff, for all your efforts on that. And then I think one more thing I want to say is I just can't wait for the economy to roar back. We are going to recover faster than any other city in our county, I believe, based on all the economic activity and infrastructure that we have in this town. 110 million to 117 million. I hope we get to 125 to 130 next year, a year from now, with the Measure F and the hotel tax. I hope we get to 150 million here within the next 6 years. And we're going to apply all this money to every department, and we're going to fund a lot of great, effective, impactful positions. And the city is going to be shining, and we're going to be able to manage it because it's only 13.5 square miles. And we have a great community that cares very much. And we're going to have great leadership here. And it'll be fun to watch. So this is our first step forward as a city. We've been taking steps backwards financially in this pandemic. And so they say the first step's always the hardest. And so I'm looking forward to some more steps going forward. So certainly a highlight. If I was a journalist, I would definitely spend some time on some of these, actually all of these public works positions. And then lastly, before I go to Councilmember Chua, because I'm getting lost in the tremendous public service here, I get lost in it. But a shout out to our public works department, city staff, the MEA, 7 new full-time employees. And we're going to keep delivering to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our team members. And now we'll go to Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. As always, Lauren, it's just wonderful presentation, so detailed. I don't know, I can't ask any more questions because they're all there. So anyway, okay, my question is, what is the total cost to the for all the additions of staff and also the restoring some positions? What is the total cost to our labor, to our FTEs? What is that?
Let me unmute myself. So when we look at the general fund, total cost increased year over year, $5.2 million. And so 2.6 represents the cost of living adjustments based upon the negotiated MOUs. 1.1 million relates to restored positions that were previously defunded. 600,000 relates to the added positions. Last but not least, when we swapped out contract services to in-house staffing, that adds another $900,000. It swaps it from contract services to staffing. So in total, more or less $5 million of staffing costs.
Is that 5.2 million?
Correct, correct.
Yes, pre-pandemic, is that in line with the way we have increased our FTEs?
Two different questions. So is your question related to FTEs like positions or cost? Okay, so pandemic recovery is unique when we look at trends. Trends is when there's a lot of stability, but when you're coming out of a pandemic, you have different metrics, right? So we're looking at one, service priorities. What do we need to bring back because of the pandemic? Two is being informed by the public. What do we need to bring back as service priorities? So we've got a combination of restored positions, and then a combination of added positions because we want service enhancements, as notable tonight about public works, for example, and in police and public safety. And then last but not least, the idea of bringing certain positions in-house with the desire for service level enhancements, not doing it via contract services in the area of parks and city attorney's office.
So in essence, we can't really do statistics on how we perform the previous years because it depends on the situation. I like
Correct.
that. Okay.
Correct. And we're coming out of a pandemic, which is so very different from prior trends.
Okay. I like that. I have a question on, this is probably answered this already, but I didn't catch it. You mentioned that we have $30 million. What happened to that? What that we used during the pandemic? Is
It's
that
our, I want to jump in on this one. The 30 million is sort of the revenue loss that we experienced due to the shortfalls in sales tax, the Great Mall being shut down, everything being shut down, hotel taxes, which, I think we were hovering around 14 million a year. It was down to like 2 million. And so you add it all up, other revenue sources. So it wasn't our use of revenues. It was actually just the money wasn't coming in through the economy or businesses and other sources. So
I kind of got scared when I heard that 30 million that we use.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. That's excellent explanation.
Thank you. I'm not a finance director, but that was a simple question. I wanted to jump in. Back to you, Lauren.
Good job.
Good job,
A plus. A plus.
Okay. My question is, thank you, Lauren. My question is to Police Chief. If I may, Mayor. We wanted to give everybody a chance to be upfront.
Here he is in the chamber, folks. It's our Chief of Police, Jared Hernandez.
Ooh. Okay, I really do have a question. With the funding, with the additional staff that you're getting for the next in July 1st, do you have enough staff to also manage the somehow increasing issues that we have over at the home key? Oh.
And we'll get the microphone here any moment. That red light will turn on. And take it away, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Chua. I believe you're referring to the 2 frozen positions that we get back in July. Is that what you're asking?
Because you're getting, you're getting an additional, Miss Lai, what is the total?
2 positions, officer positions in fiscal 21-22, because they were temporarily suspended for 1 year, plus an evidence technicians for the evidence unit. So that's in total 3.
So my question is that enough to handle the somehow, my impression, increasing issues that we have over home key?
Citywide, we're much more busier than we were previously. To directly answer your question, from a training perspective, it is sufficient because with retirements and also the recent promotion of the assistant chief, I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to have to train about 8 new police officers already. So I think it's probably a better discussion if I needed more staffing to have it either mid-year or even next fiscal year. I wouldn't want to tie up the money and not be able to train the resources anyways.
Okay, so for now, you're okay.
For now, I'm okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
My next question is to Fire Chief Brian, if he's around. If not, oh, there. You're mute, Chief.
I'm here, council member.
Hi. I just have one quick question. There is a proposal here to not fund the operations of EMS vehicle. This is proposed? Am I reading this correctly?
That's not a proposal from the fire department. I believe that came out of the subcommittee that the assistant city manager contact was speaking about. And I think they're referring to the ambulance that's going in service this summer after the recruits that we currently have in the academy graduate at the end of July.
Is that the same one? Somebody please answer.
Yes, Councilmember Chua. That was on a slide that Director Lai talked about from the Measure F Oversight Committee. So that was one of the, even though the committee's role is not really to provide recommendations on the budget, it's really to look at the Measure F part of the budget. They did want to send some thoughts for council consideration, and one of them, one of the suggested items for consideration was to defund the EMS. That is not something we are recommending.
Oh, this is from them.
Yes.
It's not from the staff and not from chief, right?
That's
correct.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking that because there is a request to fund the LifePack ambulance resuscitation application system. So I was wondering, I mean, why is there, it doesn't,
right.
It's not in sync. You're asking for an application for a system while you're asking to not fund the ambulance. So, okay, I got it.
Yeah, I want to comment and follow up on you, Councilmember Chui. It's I think that's one of the great things about all the sort of functions we have, and our Measure F Oversight Committee is unique in that it is a band of residents, and I think that's precisely what we want a Citizens Oversight Committee for, to get sort of an external opinion outside of our city council, our city staff, including our public safety employees. So, but it's interesting, right? Like it's the Measure F Oversight Committee. Respect to all the citizens there, but it's like the Measure F's for public safety, and so I'm a little surprised, just like you, actually, to see the recommendation to not support the ambulance. It's Measure F. It's it's like precisely what the purpose is intended for, which is public safety. So, it's funny that you brought that up and you caught that. It's sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Because the last time, Mayor,
sort of contradicting.
Yeah, that's what it didn't.
Yeah.
The last time I was over at Fire Station 1 a few weeks ago, they were showing me the ambulance and said, "Oh, this is up and running in August."
Right.
And I saw this recommendation. I go, "Oh, what's going on?"
Same Z's.
Okay.
Carry on.
Thank you. I think for now, that's That's all I have. Again, it's amazing. I just really love the presentation and also the feedback from everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, you're welcome. Wonderful comments. Next up, Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll be brief. I definitely appreciate the extra staffing. One of the things that I have been hearing from our community, and as we move into investing their taxpayers' money to ensure that it's at maximum capacity, is there is a gap of function between feedback of when cases are open from Public Works to when they get resolved. I think it would be great for our community to have a dashboard to hold the city accountable for this extra funding that we are investing, just to see in the future, because I know we've been going back and forth between moving these positions out and hiring them within. And there's no tangible data that at least I have seen in the last couple of years that would hold accountability to ensure that we're maximizing the taxpayers' money. So I would really appreciate maybe some sort of dashboard that would be available for the public to see how many cases are being done. Just I think it would be a great idea. It's actually been brought up a couple times by the community. So again, just food for thought. The other thing that I definitely echo Councilmember Chua's statements on what she just said, so I'm not going to repeat that. The other thing I am wondering is I see that PD has asked for an increase in cellular services. I know that I've been out to the fire stations on a couple of ride-alongs many times with fire. And I just want to confirm, do they use their own personal cell phones still to get from one address to the other? Not with PD, with fire. Because I'm wondering why we're enhancing the cellular services for PD, but we're not doing it for fire. And I know that's been an issue, at least in the ride-alongs that I've been in. I've noticed the guys and ladies are using their personal cell phones. So I want to know from fire if that's a need, and if so, would we be able to fund that and take that into consideration?
Excuse me, council member. Thank you for your question. No, the fire department issues department cell phones to all of our apparatus, and they're carried by the company officers. We also issue iPads to use for mapping purposes, as well as their mobile data computers that have mapping capabilities. That said, I'm sure there are members that do use their personal cell phones, but that is in addition to the equipment that's issued by the fire department.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's true, because from the feedback that I've received is that they don't have a city cell phone, and that's why they're forced to use their personal cell phone. So as long as that's addressed, I'm okay with doing it for PD. I just want to be equitable on both, just in case, like, it's just a question if it's happening here, why isn't it happening over there? And then vice versa. I see that fire is getting some extra in support with staff for their community relations and videos. And I know PD uses police that are already out. I just want to confirm that PD doesn't need that as well, or could it be shared? I mean, obviously it can't be shared because it's two different departments, but I just want to make sure that that's something that's already, I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I love the ice cream TikTok video. I've reshared it a couple times, but I just want to make sure that that's not taken away from staff that's going out in the beats. So I just want to confirm, do you need that, Chief? Again, I'm just trying to be equitable because I don't ever want it to seem like I'm favoring one over the other. Thank you.
And then, council member, if I may, that the enhancement of the social media presence for the fire department related to that position is a very small element of that position. The key elements of that position are to create backup and redundancy within our payroll processing, our contract administration, our educational reimbursement, training reimbursements, as well as our day-to-day project management. And so it will free up some capabilities that will allow us to do more. candidly, the police department, and kudos to Chief Hernandez. They do an excellent job, and the fire department could do a much better job with promoting what we're doing and engaging with the public to let them know what we are doing for them and how we're serving them on a daily basis.
Perfect. No, you guys both are doing great. Again, it's more of an equity stance on my end. And thank you for allowing me to hear that information, because it helps me understand the position a little bit more from the framework that was presented. So thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate you. That's fine. Yeah, I got my own question answered. So thank you. The other question that I had, let's see. Actually, I think that's it. So, staff, I just want to say thank you so much for the presentation. You guys are doing an amazing job just collectively. It's always great to see our city in the top 3 of things. And so that's definitely not by accident. It's very intentional. And I just want to thank all of you for doing such a great job and great work. And thank you so much for prioritizing our city in your own life, because I know it's been pretty crazy 2 years. And so just know that your work is appreciated at all levels. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Oh, great. You're welcome. I just want to do a point of information in terms of the tracking service requests through Public Works. We do have the My Milpitas app, and on the map, it shows a very citywide report on current resident and community member concerns. There's sort of a GIS there to track the timeline of those reports and being resolved, pin drops that show when the report was submitted through the My Milpitas app and when staff acknowledged it in every step of the way. So I encourage our city council at your convenience to check out the My Milpitas app for really a very advanced dashboard on service requests through the DPW. Okay, next up, Vice Mayor Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a shout out to all the staff. You guys are amazing. City Council, my colleagues, we all work together to make this budget work. It's amazing. I think we're one of the few cities that have the will, and we are going to make this a great, great city. It already is, but it's with this budget, it's amazing that we all work together. So thank you, Ashwini, and thank you, Lorelei, for doing this, for this presentation. I do also like the $100 bill analogy, and it really parallels to the community survey. That's the beauty of it, because what the community wanted is what is in the budget, and it's wonderful. And this level of service is what paramounts the service that we get in the city. One of the questions I had for this Measure F Oversight Committee, I know it's a comment, and Councilmember Chua already touched on the EMS vehicle, and for sure we do not want to defund this vehicle. On the second bullet, double the square footage available for community gardens. I beg to differ on that, because the less operators you have, the bigger the square footage, that means you'll have less operators. And we really want to make sure that there's more usage from the community. Also, I do like the city to work with school district to enable community use of tennis courts. It's a working partnership there. And the city to fund a grant for this Cow Hills Garden Club. I think that's really important. I think kids, they live to work with the soil and making sure they're growing something and they're working with their hands. I think that's great. I would also like to add on there that we should look into subsidizing youth sports. For example, PAL, Police Athletic Leagues. I think sports is really important for kids. It shows them discipline, and it guides them in the right direction. So I would like to add that, subsidizing youth sports, specifically PAL, Police Athletic League. And the other comment I had was funding to be determined. This was on the the ballot measure. So I'm not sure. Can you explain what you mean by that, the ballot measures? I know we have one on the ballot, which is to reduce the 12 years to 8 years, but then you said there's other ones other ballots. Is this the right time to ask about that?
Sure, Vice Mayor Montano, if I can respond to that. So we did have the discussion partially about the council member limits. We were asked to come back to discuss the mayoral kind of terms and, if you wanted to change the process. So we sort of have a part 2 of that conversation coming to you shortly. And then depending on the results of that and the direction from council, we will bring back ballot measure language. We're hoping in the second meeting of June for a November ballot. So we're not sure if it's 1 or 2 ballot measures at this point, which is why we said TBD.
Okay, see, I thought, but the timing will be okay. I mean, we won't miss the deadline.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason, I thought we had already decided just to leave it as is, but I might be wrong. The other thing I had a question on was you wanted confirmation requested for the murals on VTA, the Main Street or the VTA. So is that going to be on that June? Or do you want feedback?
We would like some direction tonight so we can then modify the budget and bring it back for council consideration to adopt on June 7th. So we have 3 slides on referrals that we would love to hear some feedback tonight if we may.
Let's go to them now. If we may.
We could get help with the slides. That begins with slide number 45, please.
And while we're going to the slide, if I may, let's go to public comment and cross that check that box off while we're going to the slide for the vice mayor. And so public comment, I'm gonna squeeze it in here. First up with virtual raised hand, we have, let's see, Junior, is this, I'm not sure. The letters J, R.
Hello, it's Jackie Romero. How are you?
Okay. Going by JR now. Okay.
I was quickly trying to get logged in. So thank you for the time. I just wanted to ask about Measure F. Unfortunately, there was something that happened, and I just am very informed now about the issues at the new hotels. And I'm really concerned, mainly because my daughter now works at one. And I just think that there should be more police available for the hotels with the increase of the hotels in the area and the police resources that they've been calling in. And so I just want to put my 2 cents in about that. And then also, as you know, we're very engaged with the theater. And we started a nonprofit called the Triple Threat Theater Foundation. And we're looking at donating towards the theater. There's been some conversation that there was some need for additional mics to be replaced and stuff like that. We missed the community meeting. I'm not sure how that happened. I didn't get an email or it somehow slipped through my inbox. So otherwise I'd be having this conversation at that time. So I apologize for bringing it up last minute, but if there's any way to have like a contingency fund for the theater so that they can replace some of the mics, and then also if there's any other needs that the theater may have to have a stellar show, just like we've been doing in the past. So again, thank you for the time. Thank you for all your hard work and all the hard decisions you guys have to make. And we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Well, thank you for your comment. There's no one in the chamber tonight, folks. Mr. Montemayor, I'll have to follow up with him. Any further virtual raised hands for the public comment? Seeing none, we'll go back to the slide here. Here we go, the council referrals. Vice Mayor, why don't you take us away here and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have 3, well, I think, okay, well, there it is right on the screen. Okay, so funding is to be determined. So the ballot measures, from my understanding, I thought it was the mayor one it was going to be as is. So I'm not sure what the council wants. What is their request?
Well, let's go to that. I second sort of your comment. Last time we had a discussion, it was really about the city council seats going from 12 years to 8 total for sort of a time. And the last time, if I can recall, we were going to leave the mayor position as a status quo in terms of terms, which was not my suggestion, but I'll roll with it.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. So that,
If that's okay, then unless there's an objection at this time, that way we can kind of streamline through these 4 items, these bullet points here. I don't see any objections to. Okay, we have an objection. Moving on, Councilmember Dominguez. Okay, is it regarding this bullet point? We're gonna go bullet by bullet. Okay. We're gonna go bullet point by bullet point right now, and then we're gonna take everybody's comments as well, per usual. So for staff's benefit and for the public, we'll go bullet point by bullet point here on the slide before you. Council referrals. So we had just discussed the first bullet point, ballot measures. If there's any objections to what was stated, I'm looking, please raise your hand. I'll call upon you. If not, we'll move on to the next bullet point. Okay. All right. We're going to go to, and please show your hand so I can call upon you if you have a request for that first bullet point. Okay. I want to move to the second bullet point here, a child care center initial assessment. Lauren, was there something that we can provide feedback for?
No, actually, I'm just going to walk us through this real quick. Just if you can, council, confirm that you wish for staff to work on these as a part of our work plan, because the referral process says these items take 4 hours or more, and as such, we would table it for the budget deliberation. So just give us confirmation, but these items do not require funding. They do require staff time as noted there, right? So by way of consensus tonight, please advise us if this should move forward in our work plan or not. These do not have specific funding requests. Specifically, child care center assessment would be handled by staff. The third-party food delivery fee requires legal analysis by our attorney. The lease of Main Street would just continue doing outreach to the property owner.
Okay, copy. Yeah, I think the council is in support of the bullets 2 through 4. Unless there's any objections, we'd be happy to hear it. Hearing no objections, it looks like we're good for all 4.
Assistant City Manager, excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry, Assistant City Manager has her hand up, so I just want to see if she has a clear.
Sorry,
is that okay?
it doesn't show.
I know, I'm sorry.
Thank you for that, actually. Thank you. We'll go to our Assistant City Manager, Ashwini. Sorry, my screen, that's my fault. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to confirm on the first bullet then, we do not, because we were planning to bring the item back for further discussion on the mayor. But if that is not needed, if council consensus is that direction on the council member term limits is given, we can just bring back the ballot measure language, the proposed ballot measure language. So
yes, I think we're good to go. I think it's generally understood there, the direction we're headed with the ballot measure.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes. I know we got to get it right. All right.
Okay, thank you. And we need to, I think, go back the slides, right?
Correct. So if I may have assistance with the prior slide, Mr. Mayor, we're going to go through the other referrals that we need some clarification on. The homeless task force, we will go ahead and update the proposed budget because we've got clear direction there and it's coming from the housing authority. We need clarification tonight about the senior center mural, which is $20,000. It would be funded by the Public Arts Fund. And then the next 4 items would be coming from the general fund. The roller skate event, the Ferris wheel, solar panels at city facility, other city facilities, an assessment of that, and then the address on the city hall facade.
Great, thank you. With the first arrow, no general fund needed items, we have 2. So I don't think there's any financial concerns. If there's any objections to those items, which have been supported previously, we'll take them now for those first 2 bullet points under the first arrow. If you have an objection, I'll look over to my right to see if you would like to raise your hand. If not, that's fine as well. Hearing no objections, seeing no objections. We'll move on to the general fund needed arrow. I guess I'll go first. Really excited about the 3-day roller skate summer event. The spirit of CalSkate remains here in Milpitas, and certainly this is an event that fits in the community, one that is creating great interest. 3 days is actually pretty appropriate. And I think like any other event, we'd probably look to offset the cost with some community sponsors. So I actually think, we can get $1,000 sponsors, maybe 10 or 20 of them. $1,000 isn't a lot of money for a lot of businesses, $5,000 sponsors. So, but obviously worst case, this is an event that costs an amount not to exceed $100,000 to our general fund. But I just want to put that sort of an asterisk there to that event, which I fully support. CalSkate forever. The Ferris wheel, still working on that, trying to get a community sponsor. No vendor response thus far, but I'll be picking up the phone. I know the clock is ticking. But again, we're looking to get community sponsors, just like Holiday Magic on Main Street. Wasn't that a treat? Absolutely. And so, yeah, if we can't get a community sponsor for the Ferris wheel, I'm afraid it's not going to happen. And I think last time I checked with staff, there was only one vendor. It's a high demand for the red, white, and blue Ferris wheel. God bless our country. And then moving forward here, solar panels at city facilities. I think that had popular support at the last meeting, and address on City Hall. I think that's also important. But let me go bullet point by bullet point. And if my colleagues have an objection, we certainly want to hear it. So let's go to the 3-day roller skate summer event. Any objections? Okay, we'll go to council member. Well, we want to hear from you too. We want to, even though there's not a consensus for objections, we still want to hear from you. Council member Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And so first, I do have a point of request for information. I'm looking at Robert's Rules of Order, and when you say request for information or point of information, could you clarify what you mean by that? Because you always give additional information, and I'm looking at page 3 of Robert's Rules of Order, and that's incorrectly used. In fact, it says many organizations abuse and misuse the point of information to inappropriately insert information into a discussion or debate. If a member has a question about a motion discussed, that is when point of information or request for information should be used. It should not be used for the chair or any member to give additional or their opinion about the item in discussion. The way that you use it is inappropriately, according to page 3 of Robert's Rules of Order. So just wanted to put that there because my last comment was not a question and you inserted information, so it's wrongly used. Just FYI. Also, in terms of point of information, which I have a question on the discussion. Staff, could you tell me 100,000, it's overall, but how we figured out, I could assume it's a no, but I don't want to assume. how much is the cost per day on the roller skate event, or are we just guesstimating that we might spend up to 100,000? We haven't really talked to a vendor to get an estimated price. I just want to clarify if we've been able to get some sort of estimate of how much it would cost per day.
Just wondering if the
Renee, can you
recreation,
respond? Yes.
yeah.
No problem. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Dominguez and City Council for the time. So yes, we did a preliminary outreach to a skate rink vendor, and the prices were similar to the synthetic ice rink. So we did draw out a preliminary budget based on what we know from the events in December. And so that's where we came up with the $100,000, because we have a good idea of how much something like this would cost the city. So it's, yep.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Because of the event, and if you look at the data that was provided, one of the big data and feedback that we got back from staff and as well as community members was that it was too long. I've seen roller skate summer events that are a day and they're very successful. It doesn't wear staff out. They're budget efficient. And so as I love the event, but I don't think it needs to be 3 days. And I feel that as we move through our budget, when I look at 100,000, I'd rather invest that in public safety or in our parks. And I just don't feel, especially because it's coming out of the general fund, I would not support a 3-day roller skate summer event, but I would support a 1-day summer event. In terms of the Ferris wheel, there's been no vendor. So I would strongly, again, for the same purpose, I'd rather invest that money into public safety or into our parks. I am strongly against the Ferris wheel for a lot of reasons. I want to maximize taxpayers' money. When I look at the list of events, we have a lot of events that are happening. And so I don't want to wear staff out, and I want to, again, be efficient with the events that we are promoting and delivering out into the community. And based on our Christmas event, there was a lot of days that it wasn't too packed. And so I don't want to, the staff is already really busy, and I want to be very mindful of that, because what happened then was staff got really just burned out. And that did affect other aspects of the programs that we deliver from the city. So 1-day event, I am totally in support of. I think we could definitely get those sponsorship levels. 3-day event, I think it's too much. It's not maximizing taxpayers' money. And when you see at 100,000 and you look at other items, I just can't justify a 3-day roller skate summer event. Plus the Ferris wheel, that's over 200,000. I can't justify that. I'd rather give that to the theater or somewhere else where we could enhance services. Thank you so much for listening, Mayor.
You're welcome. So yeah, let's just go with our hands up in the air here as we go through the bullet points in the interest of time, since I'm presiding over this meeting. So if you object to the 3-day roller skate summer event, please show your objections. Okay. Moving on to the Ferris wheel. I'll take comments after the vote. Moving on to the Ferris wheel. If you have objections, raise your hand. Okay, that's 3 objections. Moving on to solar panels at city facilities. If you have objections, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, 1 second. Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I objected to the solar panels at city facilities, we have an extensive process right now that's happening, and it's the CAP, Climate Action Plan, that then under Deputy Public Works Director Elaine Marshalls. And part of that are the solar panels. They're addressing the solar panels. So it's going to be there. It's part of it. I think sometime before the end of the year, they will be doing a presentation to all the city council. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and chime in with our Director of Public Works here and get further details on the difference between this proposed bullet point solar panels at city facilities and what we've been working on for years, which is our what's it? Well, the energy efficiency infrastructure program. Is that what it's called? Along those lines, our award-winning infrastructure program. I'll call it that. Very proud, but if we can get some comment to elaborate on the difference between the infrastructure program and these solar panels here, because they are very much the same, as Councilmember Chua has brought up. So if we can get our Director of Public Works, we will hear more.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so back in October 2020, when we first brought this item for approval, this is the Energy and Water Savings Program. The program did include this portion as part of the investment grade audit. So this is the solar panels at the police and public works building, and another array being added to the community center. Sorry, not the community center, but the sports center. So that project was brought forward, but at the time, because of financing and funding that we had, we excluded this package from there. So what this work would do is do a financial analysis. It would look for anything from grants that we'd be eligible for. You'd look at maybe pursuing another grant through SVCE like we did before. And it'll look to find financing availabilities that would be available for us to do this project. So that's what this project would do. Now, the cap that's coming forward looks at multiple things. And even in the cap itself, it does call out this project as something that should go forward as well. So it is an important step for us to take, is to see what we can be eligible for, so we can truly know how much this may cost the city. Otherwise, if we wait too long and not take those steps to figure out what financing we could be eligible for, we may have missed the boat on some things.
Copy. Councilor Chua. We'll get your microphone here. Yeah, feel free to leave it on until you're done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Director Nada, when we have Congressman Rokana sometime last month, was it? We asked for $3 million for climate change, and he kind of said that, well, it looks pretty good, and we'll know soon. Would that request include this already? If we get that, I think we have a good probability that we might get it. I just don't want to duplicate. I don't want. Okay, the way I see the climate action plan is one big humongous plan. It's not a little here, a little there. It's a major plan. So that's my concern. And I know your team is going to present sometime, I think, August or September. And I really don't want to spend that $25,000, just a little bit portion of the whole CIP. I'm sorry, CAP, Climate Action Plan. That's my take.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, you're welcome.
You,
I hear your comments from the Congress member, our representative, and his tremendous work on climate change. But yeah, I think Congress is across our nation has been sort of at a deadlock, perhaps among Democrats, with the climate funding that was certainly left out of the infrastructure bill. And you know, I keep up with the New York Times. I've been reading it for a while now, since I lived in New York, but it doesn't look like the votes are there at this time. And so I don't think our city should bank on any federal funding until there's any significant developments on Capitol Hill. But it's such a sort of a chance that we certainly can't rely on chances here in this building. We don't do that, but I think my question is following Councilmember Chua because she really Councilmember Chua really gets me to have very deep thoughts on our subjects here, and the solar panels at city facilities. This is just for the financial feasibility here, 25K. Tony, Director Enda, what do you think in terms of future projects the budget would be for solar panels? That's my next question. Just a range. I know it's a hard question.
Yeah, it is a hard question, Mayor, but I do appreciate the question. Some of the things that we don't know right now is the offsets that we would get. I'm really drawing a blank on how much the solar panels at the community center and senior center cost us. So I don't want to throw a wrong number out there. But the great thing about that project was, like we mentioned during the event, we got over $700,000 from SVCE by the efforts there. I would say another 200,000 to 300,000 maybe from the self-generating through PG&E. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. And then the financial analysis really is a key piece there that you need to perform to make sure that the returns that the energy companies say you're going to get actually come through. I do want to pause here because I know that Walter Rossman has his hands up, and I know
Okay, I gotta look for these hands here. I gotta change my screen up. Our Deputy City Manager, Walter Rossman, welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Just to clarify, the climate action plan, which will come before you in June, most likely, has a lot of actions, a lot of activity, which is really not funded today. And so this is one way of funding it. If the council would like to proceed with the financial analysis for the solar panels, the money we requested for Congress member Ro Khanna is for carbon neutral residential home incentives. So that would not be used. We couldn't use it for the solar panels. This would be merely a program which we put together in conjunction with SVCE in order to get our residents to electrify, in essence, their homes or to switch from natural gas to electricity.
Okay. And so, Councilmember Chua, we'll go to you since you have the objection, just to kind of conclude on the solar panels.
I think we have an opportunity to get grants too from SBCE for this analysis. What they're really doing right now is to reach out to the different communities. And this is, I think, a good candidate for a grant from that office. We don't have to use our general fund for this one. That's my thought.
Now, I hear you too. You know, a lot of homes across our nation are getting free solar panels. It's like they lease them out on your roof. People aren't paying anything for solar panels on their homes. So I'm thinking, can we get some free solar panels out here? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, maybe there's not enough objections, you know, for the solar panels right now. I mean, where can we get some free solar panels? Where can we get some free solar panels? That's the question. And I'm happy to do that. Perhaps I can support this item with an amendment saying, let's hold off on the financial feasibility analysis, or even use those resources to find some free solar panels for city facilities. Can we throw in an amendment for that? Can I get some support for that?
Yes, please.
Because we want the free solar panels, right?
Right.
Vice Mayor, can we get an amendment for the solar panels? We want to move forward. Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
Walter, you have something to say?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor and Mayor, if you allow me.
Yes,
we can definitely, as part of financial feasibility analysis, we can look into contracting with a third-party provider, typically how it works, who own the equipment versus the city, and we would have to buy the electricity from them versus from PG&E. So it would be definitely another piece of the financial analysis which you could do.
Okay, great. So I support that.
And that's the way I saw it when I read this 25,000 for a financial feasibility study. That means doing the research where we can even get some free solar panels. So, and this is part of the whole climate change part of the program to ensure that we are not using electricity, the grid, some electricity from the grid, so that way we can save costs for our residents. So it's the bottom line is it's a financial feasibility, and that includes doing the research and perhaps getting some free power.
Yes,
Okay,
and absolutely.
that's it.
I read an article today. I think our power grid here in California is going to meet some challenges with all these electric vehicles. Where's the power coming from? But we need to be self-sufficient with solar and energy, electricity. So great. That squares that away. And then we'll go to address on City Hall facade. Any objections? Okay, I see a hand up. We'll go to Councilmember Dominguez.
Point of information on the conversation at hand. I have a question. What is that? Is that adding the address to the marquee? Or I'm not too sure what that is. So maybe if someone could just explain a little bit more on what that is.
Sure, yeah. We'll go to the proposer, Vice Mayor Montano. Get your microphone here. Okay.
Yeah, it's putting the address on the building itself. And the reason being, you can't even see the address. It's on a little pedestal. It's hidden with. It's just so small. It just. I think we should put it on the facade, the city facade.
Okay, and we'll go back to Councilmember Dominguez.
Point of information. You mean like the address on the building itself? Just want to clarify.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for that information. Personally, $20,000 is a lot of money, and the address is there. City Hall has a big rotunda. I think that most people now have GPSs. This is not an emergency place to go. If it was maybe the police department, I would be more inclined to support it because it's helping visibility of the police department. $20,000 again to add an address. The address is there. It might be tiny, but I just cannot justify spending $20,000, especially when we're talking about conversations about solar panels and trying to save $25,000. I just feel we could spend that. Again, it's maximizing taxpayers' money to what they have prioritized. And based on the survey of the community, that's not part of the prioritization. I'd rather invest that on walking beats for officers or increasing staff time in the hotels or doing something like that. I would totally support that. But at this time, unfortunately, respectfully, I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
That's okay. Any objections addressed on City Hall facade, an amount not to exceed $20,000, not actually $20,000, but an amount not to exceed $20,000. I'll go for the objections. Looking for objections. There is a consensus. The item is not moving forward. Thank you very much. Now, that's all the bullets for the screen. I want to take a moment and lobby for the 3-day roller skate summer event. Councilmember Chua, I'm looking at you. This is an amount not to exceed $100,000. Can I ask you for any support for this event and a dollar amount not to exceed? I do plan on working with business stakeholders to sponsor the event. But in the event we need general funds, what amount can I ask you for today?
Mayor Chan, I object to the 3-day, but I would go in between the 1 day and the 3-day. Can we do 2 days?
Yes, I think it should be 2 days, Friday and Saturday. I think Sunday's not a good day.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Yeah.
If that's okay with Councilmember Dominguez.
Great. Councilmember Chua, so the amount amount not to exceed 100,000?
That's perfect, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I got my votes. All right, time for me to go home. But okay, let's go to our Director of Finance, Lauren Lai here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For my benefit, for note taking, and just to make sure I bring back the document correctly, can I have a summation of what we agreed upon for these 4 items? I just heard the roller skate event. We have support to include up to 100,000. Solar panel is to include $25,000 for a financial feasibility analysis with direction from staff to seek and research grants and funding options, correct?
Yes. Well said.
Could not ascertain what's happening with the Ferris wheel and the address on City Hall. So for my benefit, Mr. Mayor, can you help me?
Absolutely. For the Ferris wheel, I'm regretful it's not going to happen due to funding, due to the availability of Ferris wheels, due to the timing. Everybody knows I love this country. And I was the last one to tap out for the fireworks. Remember that? I was the last one. It was May, right? It was in May. If folks remember. God bless America. And but it's okay. We're gonna get the Ferris wheel another time. We're gonna get another time. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. But yeah, so no Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel is done officially tonight. And you win some, you lose some. But I think that's what's best, considering all the many multiple factors. So yes, sorry, Director of Finance, no more Ferris wheel. What's it called? Strike it out. Strike it out. Don't delete it. Just strike it out. And then the address on City Hall facade. I kind of want to keep it going, actually. I think we can find, I'm not a dead end person. My whole life, if I reached a dead end, I just got creative. If I got to a fork in the road, I didn't go left, I didn't go right, I went straight. And so I think I want to keep the address on City Hall facade item going. But in terms of the funding, perhaps that's something we can continue to work on, Vice Mayor. I don't want to totally end that one, but no funding approval for the address on City Hall facade tonight, but let's keep our options alive. We'll get creative. You've done it before, we'll do it again. And so let's keep the item. Walter, let's go to our Deputy City Manager with the virtual raise hand.
I just would like to clarify that the roller skate event will be in summer 23. It will not be this summer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we need time. We need time.
Yes,
we want to fundraise too. I think we can really get 100 businesses to give 1,000. I really think we can do it. I really do. I think even a lot of my colleagues here, when we campaign, I think we all get hundreds of donors. And so I know there's opportunity in the community. And so, but thank you, Walter, for the follow-up question. And back to the Finance Director, Director Lai.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if we may have a little bit more of your time and advance the slides forward. There are 2 slides forward. There's just a few more items we're seeking clarification on, if we may. One is the contract with HEAT satisfies for this fiscal year coming up Council's goal on the homelessness outreach. So getting confirmation that that is correct. And then 2 is the murals, number of sites, maybe prioritization of sites, and then letting us know that we want to suspend the annual mural programs for 2 to 4 years.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll start with the murals here on the slide. And so the mural program was expected to really be happening at this point in 2022 based on the work we did last year. A great job, Vice Mayor Montano. But we're saying now that we're pausing the mural, correct me if I'm wrong, we're pausing the mural program so that we can focus on the murals at the VTA and Caltrans pillars. Is that?
Yeah, I can clarify or add what Finance Director Lai talked about, and Renee, please jump in. So the council, as you recall, Mayor and the council approved the mural program in September last year. Part of this, we dedicated $50,000 annually to, and staff time obviously, to implement this mural program. The challenge we're having is we don't have the staff capacity in order to do the mural program, the annual one, as well as the pillars. So what we suggest in the council referrals to the council, which were approved, that we will substitute. We will pause in the mural program ongoing for this 2 or 3 or 4 years and do the pillars instead.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
the challenge.
I'll go to the vice mayor. This is the vice mayor's mural program. Carmen Montano, whatever the vice mayor wants, I'll support it.
No, I agree with you, Walter, that that would be the best way to go. And I did have you, I don't know if the VTA connected with you, but I guess they were trying to find you.
Yeah, they did. I did talk
Okay.
to the PIO today. He was very kind person and very helpful. And we definitely, I think VTA will be the first way to go. Is there still interest to the Caltrans pillars as well on Main Street, or should we just focus on the VTA one?
But I think just the VTA, I mean, because the whole, since you've, have you connected with Caltrans?
No, we have not. And
Okay,
I think
so
Caltrans may be more difficult to work with.
I think so
VTA,
too.
we have, obviously, with you being on the board, this was very helpful.
Let's do
to
one
get
at a
us
time.
connected.
Let's do one at a time.
VTA is, you know, since I serve on the board, well, an alternate now, but we have a really good relationship, and I think they would, and they do want that BART area, transit area revitalized. So I think that'll work.
We'll do a mural of Jim Lawson, huh? We'll do a mural of Jim. Huh?
Okay, thank you.
That's funny, huh?
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a inside City Hall Milpitas joke. A former vice mayor of Milpitas, Jim Lawson, currently a public servant over at the Valley Transportation, and still a resident of Milpitas. Huh? We gotta do something. I'm telling you, we gotta do something for him. You know, when I tried to rename the BART station or the VTA Milpitas station for Jim, but they told me it costs like $300,000, and I need to get usually it's private money. So like, well, that's not on the top of the list, but yeah. Okay. Any objections to the mural bullet point? Okay, seeing none. Yeah. And then the homelessness encampment response team funding. Yeah, confirmation. I think we do have confirmation. Let's take it 1 year at a time and follow the trends of the county and what's important to Milpitas. Great. Okay. Seeing no objections. Okay. Library funding. Great news. We got a lot of one-time fundings becoming available this year, I feel like. So certainly something to keep an eye on. Director Lai, thank you. Anything from us right now? Or let me go to Councilmember Chua with the request.
Thank you, Mayor Chan. I don't know if we use up this 245,000 already. Ms. Lai?
There is no desire to necessarily use it all, but what I have heard tonight is that we have up to 100,000 for the roller skating event, 2 days. The solar panel will be 20,000. And I believe that's all I've heard. If we can go back 2 slides, please, just to confirm. That's what my notes show.
125.
25.
I mean, yeah, 25 for the analysis.
Oh, 25. Yes, 25. So 125. So 125.
So you're getting the 125 from the 245?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to throw this idea. The last time, Mayor, can I call on Mr. Director
It's
Andrade?
all yours. You can.
Director Andrade?
Yes.
Please. When we did the small business grant, we gave to about 277 small businesses. Unfortunately, we missed about 50 something, I think. And I'm looking for some funding. Maybe if we can have some excess from here, maybe we can give those to all the people, all the small businesses that applied, because they're still hurting. And I met a couple of them that didn't get into the raffle, and they need it. So I was thinking if we have some money somewhere, because I know we have 30,000 from the hotel, and then a few more $1,000. I don't know. from the excess from the 1.5 million that we didn't distribute. How much money do we need? Where is the Director Andrade?
Councilmember Chua, good
Yes.
evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. So just to respond to the thought about the hotels, for example, you may remember that the City Council designated $200,000 for 20 hotels to receive $10,000 grants.
Right.
A total of 15 hotels applied. 2 of them rescinded their applications. So 13 hotels will receive $10,000 grants at $130,000 total. Therefore, we will have $70,000 of unutilized hotel grant funding.
Great. So how many they weren't lucky enough to be selected? Is it 55 or give me some numbers?
Yeah, well, I think that's right. Somewhere around the 50 to 60 businesses did not receive grants through the lottery. So at $5,000, let me do the quick math there.
250 something.
Yes, somewhere around that.
Okay, so we have 70 and we have 120. Oh, we're close. 70 plus 245 minus 125 is 120. So we have 190. So this is a big help for the small businesses because if we want them to survive and thrive, it's also helping the economy of our city. That's what I'm looking at. Is there anything else, Ms. Kantak, that we can get some money from? We have 190 right now.
Sure, Councilmember Chua, if I could get Director Andrade to provide information about what is left in the Small Business Assistance Program, because I know that there was a little bit left over because of kind of how the lottery process went. And so we may have some remaining from there, along with the $70,000 from the Hotel Assistance Program.
Yes, Assistant City Manager Contact. Let me just do the math really quick here. Give me a sec.
And Councilmember Chua, obviously the 245,000 is general fund money, which could be used for other purposes. All of the other money that we're talking about is ARPA that we've been assisting businesses with.
Thank you, council members, for being patient.
Always. I want to take a moment to express what a great meeting that we're having. I think our city council meetings can be measured in time, but I think they can also be measured in the level of discussion. And I think tonight's level of discussion has been pretty steady with varying viewpoints and a lot of consensus, and just really enjoying the evening. And while staff's getting to work here, our Director Andrade, I see your virtual hand. Are you ready?
I am. Thank you.
Great.
So at this point, 175 businesses will receive $5,000 grants. That's totaling $1,375,000. When you then add Live Stories administration fee of $66,545, that equals $1,441,545, which means the remaining funds out of the 1.5 million equals $58,455.
So Councilmember Chua, to follow up on your request, one of the ways we could kind of move forward is take the 70,000 from the hotels as well as this money and do a second round for the small businesses. That's not necessarily going to cover everybody, but we could use this ARPA funding to provide more assistance. And it's something we could also bring back in June if you wanted us to come back with a plan for that.
Right. If it's okay with the rest of the city, I'm only one vote. If it's okay.
I
with the
love
rest
the
of
idea.
city
I
council.
second your idea. Any objections to supporting our small businesses here in the city of Milpitas? Any objections to Councilmember Chua's? We have a hand up. Please, your microphone, please. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
One way of looking at this to ensure
I'm sorry,
that,
Councilmember Dominguez, hear me? So you got two
my
mics
apologies.
on. Maybe city clerk, if you can turn your mic off, that way we can have more access over here. I can only do 3 at a time. Thank you so much. All right, Councilmember, that's still no. Councilmember Chua, please turn off your mic. Sorry, just I can't believe I can one person only. Okay, Councilmember Dominguez with the raised hand.
I want to give time to our director who's about to say something that I am sure is going to be very helpful. Go ahead, Alex. You were about to say something.
thank you. I was just going to briefly say that if there's interest in providing funding to the rest of these businesses, we can look at reducing the dollar amount. In the past, of course, we've had $5,000 grants. Perhaps there's $4,000 or $3,000 grants in order to spread that $70,000 from the hotels plus the $58,455. It's just another way of looking at assisting our business community.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Alex. I knew you were going to have something insightful to say. And thank you so much, Councilmember Chu. I would turn my neck. This was actually a conversation that came up this week in our commission as we had this presentation with this excess money. So I know that the commissioners were very excited to see some funding left. And while I do support maybe reducing it to ensure that maybe a little bit is given to each, I do want to just clarify the park situation before I move forward with the vote, because I know that this is coming out of funding. I just want to make sure that our parks got taken care of. I remember when we had that conversation, there was a list of, I think, 5 or so small parks that weren't going to be able to get the minimum updates. Were those parks taken care of somewhere in the budget? Because I didn't see them, but I just want to make sure, because while this is an investment, I just want to make sure that I'm not taking away from the parks.
Good evening, Councilmember Dominguez. So I believe, if I remember correctly, and Steve or Renee can jump in as well, there were 2 parks still which were in fair condition, for which we still were looking for funding. We are working on a grant agreement with the state to partially fund that, but we're not fully there yet, correct? You know what the gap is, Renee?
Yeah, do you know the gap, the money gap?
It's about $100,000. Let us look it up quickly, Councilmember Dominguez, and we can get back to you in a second.
Thank you so much. Yeah, especially if it's 100,000, just because I want to see how we could do both. If that's something that my peers would be open to.
Mayor, this may take us a few minutes, so if you would like to
that's
take
fine.
out
Councilmember Dominguez provided a reply to Councilmember Chua. If we may go back to Councilmember Chua to finish the proposal. Okay, Councilmember Chua, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So just clarification, Assistant City Manager contact.
Yes.
So what we're saying is we have 70 from ARPA and 58 from ARPA from the excess, right?
That's correct.
128, right?
That's correct.
And this is what we're saying we can easily give to the 55 that didn't get in, that didn't that weren't lucky enough to get selected,
Yes,
right?
yes, either
What about-
a smaller amount across all of them or again, a second lottery.
I think a smaller amount is okay. What about the 125, the 120 from the 245 from the library? Can we touch that?
Yes, but again, it's general fund dollars, which is
Oh, I
always,
see.
always
Okay.
kind of precious and could be used for a variety of things. So we
Okay.
were trying to see what we could do with our.
Okay, I think I'm okay with it. Well, I like the suggestion of Director Andrade. A little, it's still good, and the 128, I think, but all of them must have all of them must get something. All that applied before, the 55 something small businesses, if that's okay with later on with the rest of the council.
I support that fully, Councilmember Chua. We got to support small businesses so they can produce sales taxes so that we can use the money in the general fund, huh? All right, okay. Any objections to Councilmember Chua's proposal? Okay. Let's get some objections first, and then we'll move forward with the discussion. I will call your microphone in the order. There is an order, and so objections to Councilmember Chua's proposal she just laid out. One, that two, okay. Looks like we have consensus for Councilmember Chua's proposal, but we'll go to comment. Councilmember Fan.
Sure, I've been trying to comment all night actually, but I'm thankful to have the opportunity now. I'll be brief. I do actually like the suggestion. I think what's at debate here are a couple of things. One, I do have an inquiry about the process. My understanding is that typically speaking, unused general fund dollars go through a process towards the end of the year for a mid-year budget process. My question is, are we effectively bypassing that process right now?
That's a good question. I think we're not. Councilmember Chua's proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, it does not include general fund dollars. So back to you, Councilmember Fan.
Okay, sure. That's well. I see staff has hands up. I want to.
Yeah, sure. Finance Director Lai.
Great question. We're still in the budget development process between the proposed budget and the adopted budget, where we might do some fine tuning right now. So this is absolutely appropriate and appreciated, Council.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there is a process. I do want to assure the public tonight we are having a special city council meeting for the proposed budget. So we are in the midst of the process. Back to you, Councilmember Fan.
Sure. I think it's difficult to have a sense of process in place when we're going in order what any one of us proposes. So all of the other areas that could use that funding, we haven't really taken a look at that. Like Councilmember Dominguez suggested parks. For me, I would support parks. I would support businesses as well. But what matters to me personally, I would want to see some of those dollars go towards our rent relief program. And so that's the issue that I see we're having, because there's a very limited pool of funding and a lot of priorities that we need to balance on the council. So how exactly do we do that? Do we give all the money to all of the businesses that apply? And then the other thing for me is I'm not sure that sets a good precedence, because at that point, then we don't really have much of a selection process. We're just handing out money to anyone who applies, which I worry would set a bad precedence in the future for businesses that might abuse the system. We want to have a process in place. At the very least, I would want to see them meet the bare minimum requirements. And I could be supportive of that, but at the end of the day, I am uncertain in terms of if all of the money, all of the unused dollars should go towards just one council member's priority. Or I mean, I guess if there's consensus on that, then, you know, by all means, I'm not gonna hold it up. But I, for one, would like to see other areas funded with those extra dollars. So that's my comments. And it's really hard to, you know, provide helpful feedback when we're taking a vote prior to making these comments.
Thank you. Let's go to the staff presentation that we started tonight with. Let's go to the slide with our budgeting timeline, each meeting date, what the date of the meeting, that meeting entails. Let's go to the PowerPoint for the benefit of the public, perhaps my colleague. Let's go to the presentation in the agenda report,
Slide
attachment.
13.
Yeah, let's go all the way back to the beginning of this meeting and look at the timeline of our budgeting calendar. Yeah, here's the process right here, PROCESS process. So we are here on May 10th together. And I think you've had some opportunity throughout this process to provide your input, not just during this budget calendar and process, but just the whole fiscal year. At any time, you're able to connect with any one of your colleagues to move things forward, which we have. And so this is the process. And I think I'm pretty sure you've been in it. You have perfect attendance. You have had perfect attendance. And so that's kind of where we are. There's also a slide. Let's go to the slide with our city council priorities. Please, please, thank you. Yeah, let's go there. For the benefit of the public, this is all for the public. What's up, Milpitas? Thank you for tuning in. Just want to show you stuff that happened in the beginning of the meeting. Sometimes it's good to review. Like when I was in school, I used to, while we're waiting for the slide, city council.
Slide 12. Slide 12, please.
Like when I was in school, I used to read a book, and then let's say I had a test or something. Sometimes I had to go back to chapter 2 because once I get to chapter 20, I gotta go back to chapter 2. But here's our council priority areas, and I think Councilmember Chua's proposal to support small businesses fall within the economic development and job growth area. Councilmember Fan, I know you're a staunch supporter publicly about creating jobs. That's one of your biggest things that you do. So, but there's also other areas like parks, environment. I get it. Open space. Yes. I mean, and so, you know, I really appreciate each council member's sort of leadership. And it's no way to mismanage money. I think that some of these programs have already been demonstrated, such as small business grants. This is a community of small businesses which put our country moving forward, and reflective of our majority immigrant population, foreign born. You know, Milpitas is the land opportunity, and a lot of our grants are going to small businesses, but I dare say a lot of immigrant owned businesses. So I just wanted to share that we do have a process, and we do have priority areas that we have spent special meetings on over the last 6 years. This is our 6th budget that we've been together, you and I. Matter of fact, you and I are the only ones left here when we first started. And so I've been with you. I know you, and we've been through a lot, and I know we got some positive things we can do as we move forward. So I'm a little perplexed as to your argument. We do have a process, and we've put so much time into it. I mean, just look at the calendar timeline. We've attended all these meetings, and we've agreed on these areas. So I just want to, I'm a little baffled just for the public that, we do have a plan and we are driven. So thank you for that. But and so for Councilmember Chua's proposal, consensus support for supporting small businesses. But let's finish the meeting here, getting staff's requests for feedback and direction, and also we'll get everybody's comments as well from the council. We do have some requests for the microphone, but let me go to our Deputy City Manager, Walter Rossman, for a comment.
Yeah, just thank you for allowing us the time to quickly research the question for Councilmember Dominguez. So the gap we had identified in August 21 for the 2 parks, which were in fair condition, we want to get them upgraded, was $350,000. We are in the process of getting an allocation from a statewide grant pot of money of about $224,000. So the gap is 126 to get all of those parks, which we identified as part of the master plan, to get any park from poor and fair condition into a good condition. So the gap is 126.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go back to the council here. I do see your hand up, Councilmember Chua, but there is another person before you. Vice Mayor, is it okay if I go to Councilmember Chua for the microphone? Or okay, let's go to Vice Mayor Carmen Montano.
Thank you. No, I do agree with the small businesses getting a different allocation and using some of those extra funds. But when you think about it, the whole pandemic affected the business sector the most, especially restaurants. So these funds, these ARPA funds, are basically recovery funds. So I have no problem with Councilmember Chua's recommendation. But when the time comes, I want to go back to Measure F on using some of those monies to subsidize youth sports and PAL, police athletic leagues. I think we need to invest in our children, and I think sports is the one way that we can help them. So I want to make that comment so we can go back later.
Very well, very well. But it's Councilmember Chua here. You're next.
Thank you, Mayor Tran, and thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to point out to Councilmember Fan, the $70,000 is for small businesses too. That is excess from the $400,000. And the $58,000 is from the 1.5 that we didn't use. It's for small businesses. So we're not taking away anything for economic development that we focused on for this grant. So it's 128. Those are the ones that we're using. And for Councilmember Dominguez, there's a 120 plus your grant of 224 that would satisfy your 2 parks. Right. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. And next up, we have Councilmember Dominguez. And thank you, everybody. Let's do a time check.
Thank you very much, Mayor. First and foremost, I want to support Councilmember Fan's comments. I think that there is a validity on what he said in process, and our community is watching. Our community has been loud and clear about wanting stop signs, wanting lights, wanting parks. They continue to take these surveys that continues to give us that information. If we invest time and money into surveys, I do believe that we need to pay attention to them. And while I am in big support of giving the grants to the small businesses, in fact, we were on Vice Mayor Montano and myself were ones that worked on this idea when it came through, I believe, a task force, and way back when, a couple of years ago, when COVID just entered. And that was a priority that we both said was really important. In fact, I think we were the first city that actually launched the funding. The way that I see this, and I want to be respectful of my peers, because it's not a win. It's not you or me or it's an idea. The way that I'm comparing it is, if I put all of this money on the chart and I see 1-point-something million, our budgets are reflective of our values and what's priority for our city. So I want to match the top things that we fund with the top priorities of the community. If those are not aligning, there's a misalignment and we're not listening to the people that we serve. That is my ultimate goal here. And it was clear, it sounds like the gap for parks could be funded. It could be funded tonight if there's a majority for that. The other thing that, again, this is the time for, and I'm sure all of us have received the change.org petition that talks about the stoplight and the stop sign. So I also want to know how much that's going to cost. We don't have to make a decision and allocate that money today. I would personally want to know how much does a stop sign cost? How much? I know that there's a study that's going to be at the end of June, but just like we did with the solar panels, we could allocate some funding if there's an opportunity to be a placeholder until that study happens in the end of June. So personally, the community is asking for these things. And while the small business grants are important, we did what we could. We've given out over 1.something million for this cause. And the County of Santa Clara still has this program going. So there's alternatives for our small businesses to apply through the grants. The county has way more money than we do. So I do believe that there's an opportunity to maybe help those 50 businesses that maybe didn't get grants through the city of Milpitas. I would feel more comfortable helping them move through the process of the county and the state and look at those resources to make sure that they're applying. And most likely if they apply, they're going to get that funding. And then moving the excess money into a priority that the community has clearly told us, parks and a stop sign for safety, for pedestrian safety, or for traffic safety. That's a huge issue in Milpitas right now. I mean, my neck tells it all. People are driving way too fast in Milpitas. And as someone who's experiencing injuries, I do not want this on anybody. And if I cannot in good conscience move an extra 100,000 plus into a category that's not been identified as a priority for the residents of Milpitas. We've already did our due diligence in funding that. Those are the tough choices we need to make. We have a whiteboard. We have this excess money. Where are we going to put it? We don't have to really put it anywhere. Personally, I would put it in what the community has asked me to fund: a 4-way stop sign, a light, or parks, and make sure none of the parks get left behind so we could put an equitable lens and making sure that we treat all parks the same. Right now, staff has told us we have a gap and we have the funding. So it's up to us if we want to fund it or not. Personally, I can't support the business idea knowing that our parks could be funded at max capacity. I'm so sorry, but I just can't do that to our community. The priorities are clear: traffic, safety, and parks. And that's where I would like to see this extra funding invested in. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Let's go to the point of information. Hey, point of information, Deputy City Manager Walter Rossman. Okay, I just want to clear information here. Let's start with the intersection of North Park Victoria and Kennedy, as well as South Park Victoria, Mount Shasta. We already have staff working on it. Funding is available. We are working with the Milpitas Unified School District over by Burnett on Fannin and Kennedy as well. Are these things happening, Walter?
Steve can speak more to this, but my understanding is the staff has been working on those items.
Thank you. We've been working on it for a long time. All right, another one, point information, Walter, because it's not about who's right. It's about what's right. And that's all that matters. And I bring that up. When I was a student at UCLA, same as Anthony, go Bruins. we had a legendary basketball coach. His name was John Wooden, and he's the all-time winningest college basketball coach. And he had a lot of sayings. And one of them that I always read when I was in school was, "It's not about who's right, it's about what's right." And that's why I'm always a stickler on this council for everybody I've ever worked with. And I hope people are sticklers with me too. I want people to correct me. I don't want to walk around with the wrong information. And I really appreciate when people correct me. And so anytime, but when I hear sort of comments that aren't correct, I have to do a point of information and ask for the information from our city staff. And I don't really, it doesn't matter to me who's right. I could be wrong. It's fine. It's what's right and what's right for our city and our community. So staff has been working on the issue for quite some time. We are very in touch with the community. I hear about squirrels that are doing damage. I hear about pickleballs that are making too much noise. So I certainly understand when there's road concerns. And so we have emails to prove ourselves, which is sad. Like from, I think 2 months ago, transportation subcommittee is a public meeting. The city school district collaborative subcommittee is a public meeting with the minutes and agendas, and public is invited. So it's just weird to hear that we're not doing anything for our community. We've been doing things for our community for many years, a whole lifetime. So it's just kind of baffling as to hearing, and then city staff's working on things. And it's like, our engineering and traffic manager probably listening right now, like, what the heck? Like, we are working on this. We're putting more than 4 hours of staff time. We're ensuring the safety of our community. So it's just hurtful for our city staff to hear that our city's not doing anything when in actuality, they are spending time and they are committed to making our city a safer place for all ages. So it's not about who's right. Let's just focus on what's right. I see Walter with the virtual raise hand, please.
Yeah, I just would like to clarify to the council and assure the council, once the studies are complete and indeed the studies warrant, based on national standards, a traffic light or a beacon or stop signs, we will definitely come forward if we need any extra funds.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't just throw out a stoplight. Councilmember Fan mentioned it. We have to go through a process. There is a study that has to be conducted. We can't just do things just because our intuition or instincts tell us to do it all the time. But Councilmember Fan stated we have to have a process, and that's okay. I think that's okay. The best outcomes happen when there's a process in place. So I did want to share that. In terms of the parks, I did hear some comments about the parks. In no way can we fund all the parks in 1 year. So let's go to our deputy city manager, Walter. I mean, how much money is going towards parks this budget cycle? It's a significant amount.
ARPA, that's an interesting question you're asking. I don't have it in my head, but it's several millions with ARPA funds.
Several millions.
Then we have the design for Cardoso, which is about 500,000, and there may be others too, which I just don't.
Yeah, we're hiring more maintenance workers. I mean, we're major rebound for our parks in just a few years, 2-3 years. So we're going full force, and I think we'll be fine. We got to keep supporting our small businesses so that we can get the sales tax to fix our parks. And so these small business grants, there's a return, the ROI. I'm getting fancy tonight, but we're gonna get the ROI from our small business grants, and hopefully they pay back that $5,000 or $3,000 in their sales tax, or even double it. Hello. Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Chan. I just want to point out that we're listening to our constituents. We're listening to the residents. We're listening to our city. We have $4.2 million for the parks. And that started out from people asking us, what are you doing with, Senate Park and all the 12 parks that we funded? We are listening, and our priorities are based from the feedback of our residents. So please, it's $4.2 million that we focus on our parks. And we listen to our people. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Chan.
Yeah, and we have it on paper. We have documents. Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you very much. And I want to clarify something. No, we're not. We're not listening to our community, because our community is saying it is time to build sustainable solutions to all of our parks in an equitable lens. We're not doing that. Staff has clearly told us there is 2 parks that we're leaving behind, and it's always usually the same parks we leave behind. We can no longer leave people behind and parks behind based on different communities in Milpitas. There is different needs in the city, and there needs to be an equitable lens that is equitable across from one point of Milpitas to the other. And this perspective might be very different. And Councilmember Chua, please know I respect it. But when I have emails that are coming through literally as early as last night, and I don't see money invested into the items that the community is clearly asking all 5 of us, then I can't honestly say that we're listening to our community, because we're moving forward items that are important to us. This isn't about us. It's not. And I'm not going to argue with you, Councilmember Chua, because I could sense that you're a little perturbed, and it's okay. We're just going to agree to disagree. And honestly, it is 8:35 and it's the mayor's birthday. So happy birthday, Mayor, today. I hope that you get some time to celebrate. I think
will you sing happy birthday to me?
Sure, ready? Are we ready to sing happy birthday to the mayor? I think it's 8:35. As soon as you adjourn this meeting, Mayor, we'll go ahead and sing you happy birthday.
We'll meet at Straw Hat Pizza. Will you buy me a Pizookie?
No, I won't buy you a Pizookie, because I want to be there to eat it, and I can't have to go home. I go home and sleep. So I think we need to just vote on this item so we could get through.
I like that.
And let's just move on.
Let's do that.
We need to just end this meeting and get the mayor to get a Pizookie.
Look, I'm just here to. I'm not here for a long time. I'm here to have a good time. All right.
So with all due respect, Councilmember Chua, we're just going to agree to disagree. To the community that's watching.
Yeah, I like that.
The video's there. I just kindly, it's not that I don't support our businesses. I just want to fully fund all parks. Okay. And so
you've done a lot of great work,
Councilmember. Yeah. So could I call the question on this? Is there?
Well, no, we're just giving feedback. There's no question.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we're just giving direction and feedback.
Perfect. Thank you.
And great work, city staff. Thanks for being here with us. And I think it's been a pretty light night, actually. So 99.9% of the budget is tremendous work from our city staff leaders. You know who you are. I'm gonna go down the list, but you know who you are. And then so city council is always going to provide that final piece. So thank you for allowing us to do that. It's a synchronized effort here. I want to go to Councilmember Chua, and hopefully we can conclude here shortly.
There is a solution on the park. If I heard there is.
I know there is one, but can we? The CIP is already done. By the way, I didn't want to look. I know how this thing works now.
Solution.
I know. I appreciate your heart and your intent, because that's what we need sometimes. But I think right now we already completed the CIP, and while staff's I think coming to, I just want to say to all my colleagues, Anthony, everybody, like, you can always call me, and we can work. We've worked on things before. I never, just we can meet up. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, and we have an opportunity going forward here to do that as well. I have always been open to Okay, so just the feeling that, I was like Facebook memories the other day, I think it was today. We had a great picture at my birthday like 5, 6 years ago, right? And I miss that. So like I'm still here to work despite everything. I'm still here, you know, to work. I mean, anytime I can work with any member of the council, and I want to share this as I finish up my last year as mayor. You have 4 other people that you can work with. Don't let the opportunity pass you by. And so that's why even today or tomorrow, I'm still cool to work on anything. And I have. Anytime you've come to me in the past, I've always been there. So just to any member of the council, you have 4 other people to work with, and you can have anything you want if you can work with other people. Like, I learned that, and my life got better. So my public service got better, my leadership got better. So I just want to share that, like, no one does anything alone. Anthony, you know that. You've seen me from the very beginning. So tonight is an opportunity that I think everybody had. Let's look forward to the mid-year budget. Let's look forward to next year's, look ahead. Next year's budget is going to be over $120 million. I'm going to say 125 million dollars. And Anthony, you're going to be here long enough where it's going to go over 130. And you're going to have a tremendous opportunity as one of 5 elected officials of the city for a budget over 130, maybe $140 million to make an impact in the community. So, look to your left, look to your right. That's the only way we can get it done. And that applies to everybody. I'm not singling out anybody, but it applies to anybody. So let's go to our city manager, Steve McHarris. Are you ready?
Sure thing, Mayor. Would you like me to just say any
Yeah,
closing comments?
Did you get everything you need? We're not done, right? We got another meeting.
I'm not sure.
Even between now and the next meeting, we have the opportunity, right?
So our finance director, do you have any other, do we have anything? We've covered all the items.
We did.
Substantially, so staff's giving a nod yes. And I
Yeah.
thank you all for your input. It was very meaningful. It helped staff kind of wrap things up. We'll be working on the comments you provided, incorporating those into the final budget and bringing that back to you on June 7th. For your consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this, great opportunity for this council. This council is really settling in. There was a lot of turnover when I first started to now. And, I think when you have some consistency and some stability here on this dais all across the way, the most special things can happen. The best teams gel, and so I encourage that no matter what. I want to go ahead and adjourn this meeting in memory of a resident that passed away earlier this month. This resident lived on Callan Street in Sunny Hills and is a longtime resident. I met this family, I think not too long ago. I think it was last year. This person passed away due to an automobile accident. Auto versus auto. And just truly sad to hear that they passed away. It wasn't in Milpitas. It was not in Milpitas, but sad nonetheless. My heart is with the family, and the name is Hesserlina Amada. Let me spell that for the books. Hesserlina Amada of Callan Street, Sunny Hills, longtime resident. I think second generation resident. So the first name spelled Heserlina. Last name Amata, Emata. And so I just want to adjourn this meeting in their memory, longtime resident of Milpitas, and my heart is with the family. Callan Street, Sunny Hills. A moment of silence, please. Oh, 1 second. This moment of silence. A moment of silence right now. Thank you. Okay, I do see requests for the microphone. I have not adjourned the meeting yet. Council member, I'm gonna go in order. Council member Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I promised you a birthday song. Let me see if I could do this. Okay, wait, hold on. All right, ready? I said you guys were gonna sing. So let's sing happy birthday to the mayor. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Only your microphone is on, Councilmember Dominguez, so you'll have to sing loud.
Happy birthday to you. I hope you have an amazing birthday, Mayor, with all due respect.
Thank you. Yeah, I
We
knew
may
you.
see differently, but you're still human. And
See,
I'm
everybody, we
human,
have it on
so-
film now. Councilmember Dominguez
Yeah.
does enjoy working with me. Fantastic. We have it on film. Councilmember Dominguez, thank you for your support. Singing for my birthday. I'll make sure to send that one out.
Yeah,
I need a
kindness
press release.
matters.
Where's the
so-
PIO? I need a press release. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Can I go to Councilmember Chua?
Absolutely. Happy
Thank you, Councilmember Chua.
Thank you for dedicating this tonight to Bess Imara. She was a friend of mine, and she's a patron of the sports center. We Zumba together on
Senior,
several
yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
So everybody knew her.
Yeah.
So it was shock to everybody. She was in Hawaii vacationing, and
That's
they got
right.
into an
That's right.
accident.
That's right.
So may she
I-
rest in eternal peace and love.
Thank you for sure. I
Mayor.
did not know Councilmember Chua. Thank you for that. Truly, thank you. But yeah, you know, we're a tight knit community, definitely small town, and you know, I know, you know, Renee, our director of recreation and community service. You know, I know Renee sees a lot of our seniors, and Renee knows every time. So definitely, I appreciate our city staff. You know, we got a tight knit community in the community, and so I think we got a tight knit organization as well. This meeting is adjourned.